Welcome back to Sports Talk with Austin or Jeffrey from Omi Talk Sports. Whatever you're streaming this on, it's good to have you here and it's good to be back. It's been a minute. Me and Jeffrey have been MIA, but it is all right. We are here now. We're bringing you content like you've never seen before. And it's March, and you know what that means. It's been our tradition the last 2 years, and we're bringing it to you again like only we know how. 2020-25 March Madness Bracket Preview. The only bracketologists that are right and not corrupt. But we'll get into that in a minute. As you can see, me and Jeffrey are in the spirit with the Ville and Alabama. Of course, he would have Indiana, but we'll get to that in a minute. But without further ado, Jeffrey, how are you? How you doing? And happy March Madness to you.
Happy March Madness to you as well. And we also got Jackson bringing us the super chat. Appreciate that, Jackson. Cue the March Madness music, everyone. Absolutely. It is so exciting to be back in the best month of the year for sports if you are a basketball fan. I mean, really for almost anybody. I mean, because you can't beat the March Madness bracket, the setup, the tournament, just the feel of it. You know, losing you're out, win and you advance and have a shot to win it all. Like every team has a shot to win it all. It's just such a great event. Love doing it every year. And I'm doing great tonight, Austin. So excited to be back and talking March Madness with you. Can't wait to get into it. And like you said, would have had another team's hat on tonight, but yeah, they were left out. We'll get to it, but Alabama, they're looking good. Hopefully, we can go on a big run this year. It'd be very exciting. But there's a lot of really intriguing games that don't involve our teams. But even the ones that our favorite teams, those games are interesting as well. So there's a lot to get into.
Yeah, there's plenty to talk about, and we're talking about it all. And we're going to give you our Final Four and championship picks as well. That way, we're on the record books too, and you can give us harassment about it as well. But Jeffrey, do you want to talk about North Carolina? Let's go on and get it out of the way before people start piling on. Wait, let's get it started. As you can see, the first four began tonight. First off, congratulations to Alabama State advancing. I don't know how much of that you saw, Jeffrey, but that was a crazy ending.
Yes, I did see the very ending of that game. I mean, throwing a 75-foot pass down the court, that never works. And it just bounced the right way for Alabama State. They were able to lay it in. Just pandemonium ensued. An incredible ending. That's March. I mean, literally the first game had a great ending. That's why we're here. That's why we love the sport so much. It was a fantastic game. I mean, most likely they're going to get obliterated in their next game. But, hey, at least they could say they won their first.
Yeah, I'll just say congratulations to Alabama State. I mean, like you said, that ending was crazy, and it's what March is all about. I mean, normally when you throw those 75-foot passes, they normally get tipped or thrown out of bounds. Like I'm still shocked, but good for them. Good for them.
Absolutely.
But the game currently going on right now, North Carolina, San Diego State. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, North Carolina's putting a butt whooping on San Diego State. And Jeffrey, our resident Tar Heel, he, has got some things to say. But first off, North Carolina was obviously one of the more controversial teams that got put into the tournament. And a lot of people are saying, they didn't earn it. They didn't deserve it. 1-12 in quad ones. What have they done? They got swept by Duke. And here tonight, so far, they're beating up on San Diego State, making San Diego State look like the ones that do not belong. And Jeffrey, I'm going to come to you as the Tar Heel guy here. I mean, what do you think of this whole situation?
I mean, I will say, like, anybody that follows my X account, I've been very vocal the past couple of days about North Carolina's inclusion, and not for the positive things. And a lot of Tar Heel fans are upset at what I've said because I am a North Carolina fan. A lot of people know that I do, love Alabama, North Carolina, Indiana. A lot of people are like, how can you like three teams? That's a whole other thing. But I do live in the state of North Carolina, so I have grown up a Tar Heel fan. So I love the Tar Heels. And I mean, when I've seen them win national championships, it's been amazing. When the heartbreaking loss to Villanova with Chris Jenkins, like that hurt. Like I was there for all that. So yeah, like I want Carolina to make the tournament. But in this scenario, I did not feel North Carolina belonged in the tournament based off what the committee has done in prior years. And every bracketologist had West Virginia in the field, and almost every bracketologist had Indiana in the field. And I understand that they're bracketologists; they're not the committee. The committee, they're not going to go exactly with what bracketologists say. But when you have every single team, or every single bracketologist rather, having West Virginia in the field, that's never not happened in history, where every single bracketologist that submits a bracket to the bracket matrix has a team in the field, a team that was safely in the field, according to all of them, get left out in West Virginia. That's not right. And then Indiana, most bracketologists had them in. They didn't get it either. So obviously there's an uproar. Texas and Xavier was very controversial too, but UNC ended up being the most controversial because their resume was the weakest. They didn't beat anybody except UCLA, and they still let them in the field. I know that their predictive metrics were good. I know that a lot of their metrics were good, but they really didn't do anything. And obviously, looking at it here, it's going to change people's tune. If North Carolina goes on a run, what are people going to say? Well, they deserve to be in.
Well, here's the. I mean, not to cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
Not to cut you off, but I want to say this. North Carolina shouldn't have to be lobbying to the committee. Is my thing. Is my problem. They shouldn't have to be lobbying to the committee. Oh, we need to be in. We need to be in. You're North Carolina. You should win the required games to begin with. You shouldn't be sitting there at 22 wins and asking the committee, can we please be in? Can we like, you're North Carolina. Like, come on. And I'm not, and I know that's, like, when you set a standard for a certain team, like North Carolina, I expect them to be in the Final Four every year. And I'm not even a Tar Heels fan. Like, but when you're a team of that caliber, you should not be in the first four, the play-in. That shouldn't happen. But because you decided, and like I said, I gave them credit for going out and scheduling a tough non-conference. I applaud them. Like, more teams should do that. But you've also got to win those games too. You can't just sit there and say, well, we scheduled Kentucky, UCLA, and this, that. Well, how many of those games did you actually win? North Carolina, 1, and UCLA? And UCLA's, the win over that's kind of soured as the seasons went on. I mean, I could make a heavy case, Jeffrey, that I could put Indiana in over North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana had 4 quad 1 wins. North Carolina only had 1. North Carolina had that bad loss to Stanford. Indiana had no bad losses. But the thing that frustrates me is just how inconsistent the committee is at explaining why teams should be in. In years past, they've always been, who did you play, who did you beat? The metrics matter, but at the end of the day, like if you knocked off good teams, like for example, do you remember that year Rutgers made the tournament?
Yes.
Rutgers that season had like a 70 net ranking, and they got in because they were like, well, they had 7 quad 1 wins. Well, if that's the case, then why didn't West Virginia get in, who had 6 quad 1 wins, but a net at 51? Indiana had 4 quad 1 wins and no quad 2 through 4 losses. The only bubble team that didn't have a quad 2 through 4 loss. All the other bubble teams had at least 1. Texas had 5. So in years past, they've seemingly gone with, who did you play? Who did you beat? The more good teams you knocked off, the better chance you had to get in. Whereas this year, it was like, well, we went with the net. We went with the net.
Yeah.
It didn't matter about the quad. So West Virginia, your net was too low. Indiana, your net was too low. We picked all the teams that had a net above 45. And I don't think that's fair either, because it goes against what the committee's done before. And they didn't really give a good reasoning. And why was there such an uproar for Carolina? Because you could argue that Xavier was in Texas were both very arguable as well. Both those teams were on the outside looking in, according to most bracketologists. A lot of holes in their resume, but it was because of the AD, Bubba Cunningham, being on the committee. That is why people were in such an uproar over North Carolina. And it's absolutely fair because it does beg the question, if he's not on the committee, do they get in? Probably not. I don't think they do. We can't prove that, but that's just my opinion. And it's frustrating because, San Diego State's a team that none of us debated was going to get in. Yeah, they were in the West Virginia range where it's like, yeah, they're going to get in. We would, if they didn't get in, we would have been shocked. But then you see this result so far. Because when we had, we were going to do the show, when we decided to do the show, my initial thoughts, I was just going to, really ragging hard to Carolina. Like, they didn't deserve to be in. I still don't think they deserve to be in. But then you see this, and it's like, Carolina's playing well. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to say they didn't belong. Like Virginia, if you remember Virginia last year, they got into the tournament. Gosh. And they just were horrible. Absolutely horrible. So, everybody's like, they shouldn't have got in. So, Carolina is simmering those questions by playing well.
Well, and the thing, too, I'll add to this is right now Carolina is playing some of their best brand of basketball they have all year. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I want to point out. And, Jeffrey, it's what you always say. It's not how you start, it's how you finish coming down the stretch. Teams change. But when it comes to basketball, you have such a big sample size. We have 32 games. Mm-hmm. Whereas football, you've got 15 at the most if you're lucky. That's a huge sample size difference. North Carolina had 31 regular season games to show they were a tournament team, and they couldn't quite do it.
Yeah. I mean, the games that, and I know they were a while ago, but the games that really, to me made it look like, yeah, this is not a good team. Like a solid team was the Pitt game on the road. They were horrible in that game. The game at Clemson, where they just got murdered. They lost to Stanford at home. They barely beat Boston College at home. That was an ugly game.
They lost to Georgia Tech on a half-court buzzer beater.
Yeah, they barely beat Notre Dame. I mean, people forget that game. They were losing that game, and then Cadeau hits a three with a foul, and he gets the 4-point play, and they beat Notre Dame by 1. So, that middle stretch of the season, they were awful. But you look at a team like Indiana, and their middle stretch of the season was awful. But at the end, they knock off Michigan State on the road. They beat Purdue at home. And I know when people talk about Indiana, it's like, well, those were their only 2 great wins. Both of those wins are way better than anything Carolina did.
I was about ready to say the Michigan State win. That's probably the best win out of any bubble team here, arguably, because Michigan State's number 2 in the tournament. They're a 2 seed,
and it was on the road. It was a road win. I still don't know how they won that game. I do think that Indiana got a little bit lucky that it was the game that so happened to be like it was Tom Izzo passing Bob Knight for the most wins in the Big Ten. It so happened to be that game. So I do think that helped IU, but they still won in the Breslin Center. And then they backed it up with a Purdue win at home, and they beat Purdue down. They played well. So to me, with the bubble being as weak as it is, I feel like there would have been less uproar over North Carolina getting in if they had have left Xavier and maybe Texas out. And Indiana would have got in, and West Virginia. I feel like it was who they left out that really made people more mad. And then it was just Carolina was the easy one to clown on because of Bubba Cunningham being on the committee. But the more I look at Carolina and then the way they're playing here, did they look like a tournament team down the stretch of the season? Yes.
Yeah.
But they still didn't prove anything. So it is hard. I mean, I have softened a bit versus what I was saying on Twitter earlier this week because I was really initially very frustrated, but I still think Indiana should have got in the tournament because they were playing better down the stretch. You could argue West Virginia wasn't playing as well down the stretch. You could argue outside of Texas beating A&M, in the SEC tournament, they were struggling down the stretch. Xavier was playing better,
Mhm.
but again, it's all subjective. I know that when it gets down to the nitty gritty, it's tough, but West Virginia was an oversight. They should have got it
Well,
for sure.
and the
And
thing,
Indiana
and,
probably.
and the thing too is, Jeffrey, and you know how big of a component I am for the ACC. I'm their biggest backer, not only because Louisville's in there, but I've always been their biggest backer. I will say this, Jeffrey. I would have favored West Virginia just fact of what conference they played in. If you think about it, the Big 12. What do you always say about those conferences that are loaded like that? Somebody's got to lose. You remember Oklahoma a couple years ago? They were not a bad team, but they had a losing record. Not because they were a bad basketball team. It's because someone had to lose the games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, you can make the same argument for the SEC this year. I kind of have said that, they shouldn't have got 14 of the 16 in, but man, that conference was loaded this year. I mean, it was unreal how many teams were good. So it is fair. I mean, I guess when you look at it, like, hey, well, Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas, like they still knocked off quality teams despite being in that gauntlet. The thing is, Carolina got hurt, and I will defend Carolina in one way, and I have seen a lot of UNC fans make this, this claim that Carolina is better than what people are giving them credit for, and the way that they are is because of the fact that if they had have gotten Louisville, if they had have gotten Clemson at home, would they, especially late in the season, would they have won? Probably one of those games, right? You would think. Carolina only got Louisville and they got Clemson on the road. And and the ACC didn't really have any other good teams. Like the ACC, they have a problem right now. In future years, they have a major problem. Now that we know that the SEC and the Big Ten are taking up the vast majority of revenue, they're getting the vast majority of quality players. Look at the SEC, 14 out of the 16 teams. This would have never happened 5 years ago. The ACC is falling off hard. They are in big trouble because you look at Syracuse is bad. Miami is bad. NC State's bad. I know you maybe get Will Wade, but will he go there? He said he wants to be at a championship level team. Florida State's down. Virginia, they're all bad. And the ACC is really struggling right now in basketball.
And you want to know what's even worse, Jeffrey? Is NC State went to the Final Four last year. Miami went to the Final Four the year before that. Virginia was coming off a title run. Syracuse was coming off a tournament appearance. You can't explain this big drop off. These are programs, Jeffrey, we're talking about. These are like illustrious programs with history, especially Syracuse and Miami and Virginia, three of arguably the best basketball programs in history, and just for them to fall off like that, it doesn't make any sense. And two of them went to the Final Four the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, like you have Kevin Keats getting fired after going to the Final Four 1 year later. Like that is unreal. Like Leonard Hamilton, it's understandable. Like he hadn't had a good season in about 4 or 5 seasons now. But Kevin Keats literally just went to the Final Four. That shows you how back in the past, I remember when programs, you'd have like Indiana fire a coach after like 3 seasons, and people would be like, well, what are you doing? Like, this is way too quick. Now you've got programs like NC State firing a coach a year removed from a Final Four. We're not talking about a blue blood. We're talking about NC State, a mid-tier basketball program. They have some history, but still. Like, that is insane. And I don't know if the ACC can recover. Again, time will tell. We'll see. But the issue is that I just feel like the amount of money, and I know that there's so many people defending that you don't have to have the most money to win, but you're seeing the SEC and the Big Ten. They're loading up, when financial revenue stability. And each year that goes by, they got more money than the other conferences because the ACC is not making nowhere near as much. You know what I'm saying? And you look at a program like Duke. Duke puts 95% of their money, that's a little bit of a stretch. It's not that. But you know what I mean? Into basketball. That's why their football team's not that great. It can be decent, but you know what I mean. these other programs, the Big 12 is holding on as a basketball conference. They're trying. They want to be that basketball conference like the Big East. Like, you know, I know the Big East is basketball only, but the Big 12, they're not competing in football. They're just not. They're never going to compete in football now.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to be a basketball conference. The ACC is getting to that point where it's like they need to be a basketball conference since their football's not very good. And now their basketball is not very good. So neither's good. And that's a major issue because, I mean, what if the ACC had 8 good teams? Carolina probably gets in, you know, more easily because of having more quality teams to play at home, and then you're racking up more quad 1 wins. I mean, again, I can't believe I'm actually defending Carolina when that's not my mindset coming on, but it is true, though. Like, they didn't get a lot of ACC opportunities, and they're non-conference. I mean, they were playing Florida and Kansas, like all these great teams, right? They're playing just insane teams, and the ACC did not provide a lot of opportunities for that because the league was down. Like, I know you get frustrated at me, Austin, for saying how bad the ACC is in both, but it's like it is compared to what it used to be. And honestly, I think that basketball's taken a bigger fall off. This was an historically bad season for the ACC. 18 teams in the conference, and only 4 got in, and really should have been 3. Only 4 got in. I know some people are like, well, the ACC is going to make deep runs in the tournament. It doesn't matter if they make deep runs in the tournament. That's a bad number. Like, the fact the SEC got 14 out of the 16, every single one of them could lose in the first round, and that's still more impressive than having only 4 get in out of an 18-team conference and they all go to the Elite 8. It's just more impressive because you're not making as much money. You're not getting as many eyeballs and viewpoints by only sending 4 of your 18 teams into the tournament.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'll say this too, Jeffrey. It kind of reminds me of the Big Ten here, when Michigan State was like when the Big Ten they were getting 3 or 4 teams in at a time, 1.2, and Michigan State was carrying them. The only reason why the Big Ten stayed above water a lot of times is because Michigan State would literally be going to Elite 8 and Final Fours off Tom Izzo's back. Michigan State, you cannot understate how important they were to their conference. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like this year, like you said, if it wasn't, I feel like Duke is probably going to be the only team, and I could be wrong. I feel like Duke may be the only team that may save the ACC from being completely dogpiled on more than they already are. Mm-hmm. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Indiana has not held their weight at all in the Big Ten in the last 25 years. I mean, could have been with Kelvin Sampson, but that's revisionist history. It is what it is. So they've been bad. Izzo's carried the slack, and now they've added UCLA, which is going to help the depth of the league. The other team, I mean, Oregon's good. You know, if Dana Altman's there for a few more years, so I mean, you got UCLA and Oregon. Michigan State.
Purdue's recently come along.
Purdue's
as much
been what Indiana isn't. And if you can get Indiana back, then the Big Ten's going to be loaded again. And it kind of is getting there. Maryland's gotten a lot better. Yeah, they're a former pretty solid basketball power. So the Big Ten's on the up and up in basketball. I don't know how consistent it's going to be in that department, but it is a good sign. But because the SEC and the Big Ten are looking so strong, like I said, it's just significantly hurting the ACC, and I just don't really know how they're going to be able to recover. I mean, we'll see if they can, but I mean, all I know is if the ACC loses a couple of their brand teams, you know, if they lose Clemson, and I know that a lot of this is from a football perspective, and I've talked with so many people about this because so many people get this mixed. A lot of people that only watch basketball, like they were telling me, like, oh, well, it's their fault for adding these teams, right? Like, you didn't want all this competition. It's like you do realize that none of these moves were made because of basketball. It was all football oriented. It's even worse for these small, you know, sports that these players are having to travel all across the country to play tennis, to play water polo. It's a joke. Like these smaller sports programs, or whatever you want to call them, these smaller sports that don't get as much attention are already hemorrhaging money because they're not profitable. But these schools, you know, have these programs or have these different type sports for people who want to play them. They have these sports for them, like lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
Not every school has these teams, but for the ones that do, you're making them travel all over the country now to play these other conference teams that they normally would have not had to travel that far. And like I said, all of these moves have been made because of football. The Big Ten would not have added Oregon and Washington if it wasn't for football. They wouldn't. They don't care about what their other sports. Like people say, the Pac-12 is the conference of champions, or it was. It's because they had so many championships in other sports. It wasn't for football. I mean, they won in football with USC, but they won a lot in other sports. Like they have championship programs in other sports. Stanford's good in like 3 or 4 of the smaller sports, but that doesn't matter when it comes to the financial stuff. You know, the grand scheme of things, it's all football. So these conferences like the ACC are being hurt by this in basketball, but these moves weren't made because of basketball. They were made for football, and there's nothing they can do about it. Now they either find a way to work around it or they're screwed.
And he kind of put a bow on this Carolina conversation because we've still got plenty of games to break down, and we've got 2 right in front of us. He kind of put a bow on it. I'll say this. Right now, Carolina is taking care of business. And right now. And good for them. Happy for you, Jeffrey. Hopefully they go on a deep run. And if Carolina wins it all, it'll vindicate everything. But
that would be the ultimate story of all time. Like the amount of, including from me, the amount of hate that Carolina got for getting into the tournament and then they somehow win it all. I mean, it's not going to happen, but if it did, wow. Like, and I mean, they're destroying San Diego State. I mean, I'm starting to flip my mind. Like, hey, you should have got in over San Diego State. Let's come on. But again, like, it is what it is. San Diego State's getting exposed.
Well, and here's the thing, too. To your point real fast, to kind of wrap it all up, put it in a present and bake it. Look at Colorado. Last year, they had a talented basketball team. Maybe one of the best in program history. They had 5 guys drafted. And this year, they were struggling to win. This year, they were struggling to win 15 games. And people were like, what happened to Colorado? I thought Tad Boyle had it together. No, because Colorado football wanted to go to the Big 12. Guess what? Now the basketball program is going to struggle because they're not built for the Big 12 basketball.
Yep, absolutely. These college basketball only fans don't understand the dynamic as well. The people that follow sports really closely, they understood, but I do know some people that only watch basketball and that's it. They don't really care about anything else, and they didn't understand the dynamic shift. College sports is never going to be the same now. With all these moves, the Big Ten and the SEC, they have the power. The Big 12 and the ACC don't have the power. It's hurting them in every sport, and it's being mostly shown in basketball because it's the secondary sport that people pay attention to. Nobody's paying attention. Oh my gosh, lacrosse is being impacted in the ACC because of all these moves. No one is caring about that outside of like 2 people. But in basketball, there's a lot of basketball fans, not as many as football, but a lot of basketball fans, and you're seeing the impacts. And I hate it because I live in ACC country, and I'm used to the ACC being great. Like Carolina, Virginia, love those games. It's not just Carolina, Duke. I like Carolina, Syracuse. You know, Louisville, another team, Louisville, Carolina. The ACC being down, I hope it doesn't stay that way because in basketball, because it's sad to see, but it's not looking good. That's all I can say. But Carolina is trying to make the ACC look good right now by blowing the doors off San Diego State. But like I said, I didn't know we were going to go this long on this topic, but I do feel like we did touch on something that was very important that a lot of people have talked about. And definitely glad we got to get our thoughts in on that.
Yeah. And I'll say this, too. I mean, this is what March is for. We're going to find out who the contenders and pretenders are. But we've got plenty more games to talk about and plenty more teams to rag on. We could do 5 hours just on Carolina, but we don't got time for 5 hours. We run on a tight schedule here. But anywho, tomorrow night's first 4 games, American versus Mount St. Mary's. The winner of that game will advance to play, I believe it is Duke, correct? Hold on.
I think you're correct on that, yeah.
I believe so. Yes, the winner will play Duke on Friday. So, Mr. Jeffrey, I'll open the floor to you. America is a 2.5 point favorite to open us up. Who do you got winning?
I mean,
And have you watched
I
either?
will say that we're not experts on these teams. I mean, I don't think most people are. I probably would have picked St. Francis just to kind of put a bow on the game tonight. I would have probably picked them. So, I mean, Mount St. Mary's, I do know that they were not even close to a top seed in their tournament and they won. So does that mean that they're not good? I mean, Cinderella runs happen. Those small conferences, a lot of them aren't very good. So I'll roll with American. I know Mount St. Mary's has I think like they've made the tournament before recently, so they have more experience, but not with
They
these
beat
players.
Iona.
Yeah, so I'll go with American to win in a close one. I don't really have an expert opinion on that one though.
Yeah, Jeffrey, don't get me wrong. I love March. I love this time of year. But these games, these 16 seeded games, I'm like, who the heck are these? And I know we're supposed to be the experts, but I'm like, who the heck are these teams? I've never even heard of them. You know what, Jeffrey? Just to make sure we don't jinx one another, I'll go Mount St. Mary's 64-60.
That's fair. I guess I'll go like 66-63 American. Yeah, I mean, like if you get that one right, it's like cool. Like I had no idea. I mean, I went with the generic pick. I picked the spread. Like I don't know.
It's like, I don't blame you. I don't blame you because I haven't watched. Honestly, Jeffrey, I had no clue who I didn't even know there was a basketball team named America.
I
I was
think
like,
they're in. Are they in the Patriot League? Maybe like because I know out of the Patriot League, usually Colgate wins. They win a lot. Or Bucknell. I don't even know if they are though. They might not be. I don't know.
I'm like you, Jeffrey. I'm clueless on this. Like seriously, like when I heard America, I'm thinking, wait, you mean the United States of America, right? And they were like,
Yeah.
no,
The U.S. is playing Canada in March Madness.
but that's the picks that we're going for on that. Don't hold us to that. Do not, if me or Jeffrey, one of us is going to get that right. So the one that gets it wrong, do not get mad at us. We are not the expert on the mid majors. I'm sorry, but on to the second and final, the fourth and final first four game on Wednesday night. Number 11 Texas will battle number 11 Xavier. Jeffrey, Texas was one of them teams that you had a big bicker and gripe with. Well, here's your chance.
Yeah, Texas frustrated me because I was like, they had 5 quad 2 losses, 15 total losses, which typically does not get you into the tournament field. I remember, I think, hate to bring it up again, but I remember like 2018, 2019 with Romeo Langford and Jawan Morgan. Indiana had 15 losses and like 6 quad 1 wins, and they didn't get in. So it's like, okay, they didn't get in, but Texas is getting in with the exact same resume. So it's like, okay. So I think Texas had 7 quad 1 wins, but again, 5 quad 2 losses. I mean, a lot of losses. And out of their 19 wins, 11 of them came in, I think, quad 4. So I don't know what we're doing here. I know they played a tough SEC schedule, but they didn't really win a lot of games. So,
well,
but Trey Johnson, though, I do know a little bit about both these teams. Trey Johnson's a stud. That's all we can say. I mean, if it wasn't for him, Texas wouldn't even have gone 500. He is great. But is he good enough? Him and Tremont Mark, is he good enough to get a win over Xavier? This is going to be a good game. I wish Indiana, West Virginia was here instead, but this is still a good game contextually, regardless of the controversy of them getting in. Xavier, to me, is the more complete team. They're the more complete team, and they looked better down the stretch of the season than Texas did outside of their brief flurry in the SEC tournament. But Texas did play in the tougher league. Xavier did rack up a lot of wins against teams like Butler and Seton Hall. So this is an interesting game to pick. I could see it going either way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what I want to point out too is in Xavier's defense, they got hit with the injury bug bad.
That's true.
Their team is just now getting to the point where they're healthy. And they have two big marquee wins that I think really compelled them to the tournament once they got healthy, and that was over UConn and Marquette. And like
They
like if
knocked
you
off
want,
Crate too, right?
I believe so. I believe they beat Creighton, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they beat Creighton, and I think it was early in the year though, when
Hmm.
they had Pop Isaac. I think I could be wrong, or was it after Pop Isaac? Anywho, they did beat Creighton. I do remember that. And like you watch Xavier when they're healthy and when they're not, they're two different teams. Like the Xavier that we're watching now is what they could have been all year long.
Hmm.
But when they weren't healthy, they like like they were still good, but they were not as good as they should have been. That's why I gave Xavier a pass when the committee put him in. I'm like, okay, they're just now rounding up into form. Injuries kind of bit them in the butt, and it's kind of like, okay, Texas. The only thing I think that I can make an argument for them is they play in the SEC. Other than that, what else you
And they
got?
probably have the best player on the floor between the two teams. And if he goes off for 35, then like he's done against Oklahoma and some other games, they can win. But if Xavier can shut him down, then Texas is very beatable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like I said, to me, Xavier's the more complete team. Texas is the best player.
Mm-hmm. I mean, here's the thing. I will say this. This, like, let me ask you something, Jeffrey. Not to go too long. Do you think Rodney Terry's a good coach?
Not really.
Okay.
I don't think he's awful. Like completely awful. Like I've seen some bad coaching this year from Mike Woodson. So I mean, I like it. It's and Hubert Davis early on was not good. He got better as the season went along with the rotations, and that's a big reason Carolina got in. He did do better, but I've seen some bad coaching this year, so I don't think Rodney Terry's by far the worst. But I don't think he's great either. I think he's heavily relying on Trey Johnson for any type of success that they're having. And every year he's been at Texas, the head coach, since Chris Beard got fired, they're getting worse. That's not a good sign.
Mm-hmm. Well, it kind of reminds me of the Kevin Ollie situation
Mm-hmm.
at UConn. And we've talked about this on and off air, me and you both. And we've compared it to it. Me and you both have said, would would Kevin Ollie be revered the same way had he not gotten the players that he had gotten?
Mm-hmm.
Rodney Terry's kind of the same way. Would they have made that run with his own players? I mean, that's why I'm always one. I'm like, give a coach 3 to 4 years before we pass any judgment, especially in this day and age of college basketball, because some programs just don't have the money to match up with the other programs. But you're Texas. That's where I'm kind of like, okay, you've got the money, spend it a little, and you should be able to build a team to contend every year. And don't get me wrong, like you said, Texas has the best player probably out of the two teams, but Xavier's the better team when healthy. And this
Mm-hmm.
is a team sport.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, this game's going to be close because I feel like Trey Johnson's going to go off. He's got nothing to
Mm-hmm.
lose. It's not a deal like Kentucky when they played Oakland last year and like Reed Shepard and the young freshman choked under pressure and Oakland beat them. Like this is like you're in a first four game. There's nothing to lose. Like Trey Johnson, it's gonna be if they lose, this is his last game of his career anyway. It's not like they're playing like a top seed. I mean, or they're like a top seed and they're playing a small school. Like he's got nothing to lose. I think he's gonna ball out. But Xavier's been playing a lot better. I mean, I did see the highlights of the Marquette game in the Big East tournament that they lost, and Ryan Conwell, man, he was really good in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Fremantle was solid. I mean, they got a good team. I don't know. We've stuck on this game for a while because it's hard. I could see it going either way. Uh,
Here's the thing. This Xavier's favored by a point and a half. So even Vegas is telling you this is a pick 'em game. Even Vegas is
I'm
telling
gonna
you,
let you pick first on this one. I don't know. I'm gonna see what you
Oh,
say.
thanks, Jeffrey. Put me on the spot. Okay. Um, I've been thinking about this one a while since the bracket came out, and I knew I would be doing this. Do I go with the best player on the floor, or do I go with the best team on the floor? I really don't like this. You know what? Give me Xavier. I think they're catching fire at the right time. Give me Xavier. 74-69.
Yeah, you stole my pick, man. I'm going 71-70 Xavier. I think Xavier pulls it out.
That
I
means
wanted to
Texas
go
is going to
Trey
win.
Johnson, but I don't. The SEC is going to have a good tournament because of the sheer amount of teams that are in. But some of these teams toward the bottom are going to lose. They're not going to all escape the first round. I think Texas falls short. I think Xavier will win. They've been playing great ball. I think they want to prove that they deserve to be in. I think they'll find a way.
Mm-hmm. And that was the first four. That concludes tomorrow night. So let's get the elephant out of the room, shall we? Let's start in the South region. And obviously, Auburn's going to beat Alabama State.
Yeah, like they're gonna win by 30 plus. I mean, I know anything can happen. It's March Madness, but no. Like if Auburn doesn't win this game by at least 25, then there's something wrong. Like Auburn needs to be careful in the round of 32. Like they need to just mop the floor with Alabama State.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to ask, does Auburn cover the spread of 31.5?
It's tough. It's tough with spreads that big because you could see like Auburn up by 30 plus points and then they take their starters out with 5 to go. You know, to give the bench some run since it's a March Madness game. You want them to get that time where they're on the floor. You've seen a lot of programs do that. So I would argue and say no because they might be up by like 35 and then Bruce Pearl puts the bench in and then they win by 30. So then they'll lose the spread. It's kind of tough. I mean, they very well could eclipse. I mean, I think they're going to be ahead by more than that at points in this game, but I do think maybe depending on the end of the game, probably not, depending on if they put the bench in.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, Auburn's going to win. No more time needs to be spent on this. I mean, unless we're looking at a Purdue situation, if that's the case, then God have mercy on Auburn. But on to more important things, we've got the 8-9 matchup, Louisville versus Creighton in Lexington. Louisville's a 2.5-point favorite. Jeffrey, I'll start it off. I mean, I'm really proud of what Pat Kelsey has done for Louisville. I mean, in his first year, 25 plus wins, a trip to the ACC championship game. I mean, something that I did not expect this year. And I think it's going to go down as one of the greatest seasons in Louisville's history. But it sucks that we got Creighton in the first round because they're a really good team. And their big man Ryan Culprinter, he may have a field day with our team because we don't have any size. We kind of like Carolina. We run a small lineup, and he could be what beats us. If we survive Creighton, Auburn's going to have a field day with us, but that's neither here nor there. But an 8 seed, really? An 8 seed? Go ahead, Jeffrey. I'll let you talk on it more before I go on my rant because I got a few things to say.
I will say that it's utterly disgraceful that Louisville got an 8 seed after the season they had. They played great all year. I mean, you know, I haven't even said anything about it like I did with Louisville football that year when, like, I was like, they didn't play anybody. They're not as good as their record, whatever, all that kind of stuff. I haven't even said that this year because, like, it's so obvious that the ACC kind of sucked this year. But the opposite thing can be said about how when, like, the Big 12 that year with Oklahoma or Texas this year in the SEC, there's so many great teams, somebody has to lose. Well, in this case, there's barely any good teams. Somebody has to win. So you got to give props to Louisville for winning. Like, they were darn good all year. Them and Clemson were the two that competed right behind Duke at the top of the ACC. They outside of one game that they lost was it Georgia Tech? I think it was Georgia Tech. Outside
Yeah.
of that game, they didn't virtually lose to anybody bad. And I think even that game was like a quad 2 loss because it was on the road or something like that. So not that bad, but like they should have been higher. I know that the SEC was stacked, and I know the Big Ten had a lot of teams too, but I don't understand how North Carolina got in with the resume they had, and then Louisville only gets an 8. Like, you're telling me Louisville was only 3 seed lines better than Carolina? That's kind of a joke. I mean, it kind of is. Like, they should have been at least a 6 to me. 5 or a 6. Like, I don't even want to say 7. Like, they should have been 2 seed lines higher. That was one of the most egregious spot placements in the bracket. I mean, Memphis is a 5 seed, and Louisville's an 8, and the resumes are virtually the same. And Memphis is more bad losses. It doesn't make sense. I don't get it. It is what it is. But I think for Louisville fans, I will say that where you've been, where Louisville has been, this is awesome. Like just the fact that like you're had a great season, even though the placement's screwy, this was still a great year. This is still a lot of positives. So, and it'd be great, if at least win the first round game. And it's going to be a good game because Creighton is a very, very well-coached team. But, yeah, Louisville's placement was not good, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I'll say this. I thought going into the tournament, I was like, we'll be a 6 seed. I'm like, okay, we're going to be a 6. I was like, we've done enough to be a 6. And then we make the ACC championship game, and I'm thinking, okay, I thought we were a 6 going in. Maybe we move up to the 4 line. Maybe. At worst, we're going to be a 6, either 4 to 6. And then I see we drew 8. And that just made me steaming mad because I was like, the disrespect. I'm like, what else do you want us to do? Like other than beat Duke, what else could we have done to move up?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what got me mad because it's like the favoritism sometimes, and not to go on a big long rant, but the favoritism sometimes is off the charts bad. And this is coming from a Louisville fan who many people think that they love us and everything. It's not. I still think there's vendetta out against us from the Rick Pitino teams, but I digress. And it just makes me mad that I'm like I'm happy that we get to play a home game basically in Lexington. Like they did do us that and gave us a good draw of where we're going to play, but the seating was all wonky. I'm like looking at it now, I'm like, you all made a mistake because now Rupp Arena is going to be packed in a sea of red. So thank you for that, committee. So,
did you see some of the Kentucky fans saying that like they were going to show up and root against Louisville? Did you see that?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, that is so petty, man. I'm like, come on.
that would be like Purdue fans showing up in Assembly Hall if Purdue got put on that side of the bracket. That's how petty that would be. But I digress. But to this game, though, Louisville Creighton 8-9 game to kick off the day. Jeffrey, I'll let you pick first.
It's so tough because Creighton is they're like the quintessential program, right? Of what I don't want to say smaller schools because that sounds like derogatory to Creighton, but you know what I mean, right? Like they're not like a big brand. They're Creighton. They're in the Big East. They're a basketball only school, right? So they're seen below, ACC, SEC, Big Ten type schools. And yet, Greg McDermott just has a solid as a rock program. Every year they make the tournament. Every year they compete their tails off. Every year they're ranked, usually in most of the season. They're just consistent. And usually they win a game or two in the tournament. Not always, but a lot of the time they do. So they're just that quintessential, no nonsense. We win games. We're going to compete even though we're at a disadvantage type of program. And then you got Louisville, where they just have one of the worst stretches of their program history. And now you get Pat Kelsey, and he's completely revamped this thing, completely turned him around. And this is his first like big game in March Madness at this job. And you have no history to go off of. So you don't know what's going to happen. Will they choke under pressure? Because, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, not to bring, hard feelings back into it, but from the ACC tournament. But when Carolina lost to Duke, I was like, hey, I think Louisville can beat them. And then Louisville just, I don't know what happened in that game. I was like, no Cooper flag. Louisville's, they can win. And then they did not look very good. And I'm not going to lie, even though Bubba Cunningham, not to bring that up again, but I think Carolina getting in might have been too, because it's like, hey, they lost to Duke by 3 and Louisville lost by 13. I don't think that's fair at all, but I'm just saying that like Louisville kind of disappointed in that game. Which team do I think is better? That's arguable. Louisville's got Chucky Hepburn. Like, he's a really good point guard. They got really solid players around him. And then you look at Creighton, they've got Ryan Kalkbrenner, who's very, very good, and Stephen Ashford. I like both teams. But do you go with the team that's consistent and reliable in Creighton, or the new, like, kids on the block in Louisville? Again, I mean, they're not the new kids on the block, but for this circumstance, they are, because they haven't been good in a few years. So, honestly, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it for you. And plus, I think Louisville's really good, but I'm not confident in it. But I'm gonna pick Louisville 75-71. But if Creighton won, it wouldn't shock me at all. But I'm gonna go with Louisville.
So this may shock you. This may blow your mind. But I'm picking Creighton.
No. You're being objective, I know, but man, like, I could not pick against. I mean, if Indiana was playing like Houston or something, yeah, I'd pick against them. But I'm picking IU, like, if they were in. But yeah, I feel you.
I'm gonna pick Creighton. I think Ryan Kalkbrenner, his size. I love the team that we have: Terrence Edwards, Javon Hadley, Chucky Hempard. I think we're a really good squad. We're seasoned, but I feel like Creighton's been more consistent. Pat Kelsey, even though he's been to the tournament once before, I just think Creighton, they're playing their best basketball right now, and I think they've gotten better without Pop Isaacs. Ryan Kalkbrenner is ultimately going to be the deciding factor. Give me Creighton 79-74 over my Cards, unfortunately. But here's another game, which it's the 5-12 game. It's the Big Ten champs, Michigan Wolverines, taking on number 12 UC San Diego. And Jeffrey, just like Louisville and Pat Kelsey, Dusty May, year 1 in Michigan, wins the Big Ten.
Should have been at IU, man. Should have been at IU.
Jeffrey, we digress on that. We digress.
I'm sorry, I had to say it. I cannot believe, man. Like, he's doing great at Michigan. I'm happy for him. Is what it is.
But we digress. We digress, though. But just like Pat Kelsey, Dusty May brings Michigan out of coma, and in the first year wins a rugged Big Ten. But they're playing a really sneaky underdog. A lot of people like UC San Diego. They're a team that can turn you over and score in bunches. What are you thinking, Jeffrey? Are we going to have an upset?
I will say that Michigan's another team that was seeded too low to me. I understand, we don't take conference tournaments that much or whatever, even though they clearly did in the case of Texas and Carolina getting in. But, like, Michigan won the Big Ten, and you give them a 5? Like, I don't agree with that. It should have been a 3 or 4. But that's another I digress. UC San Diego, like you said, they're the pick. They're the pick for the upside. Like, everybody's just instantly going to them. And that worries me, though. Like, sometimes when the pick is too obvious, you know what I'm saying? When the pick is too obvious, where, like, everybody's doing it, it don't happen. Sometimes the pick has to be sneakier, like to the point where, nobody outside of, like, 10 people thinks this is going to happen. So, I could clearly see an upset here. It could happen because UC San Diego is darn good. I watched them in their tournament, and they are really, really good. But like I said, everybody's picking this upset. It just seems a little bit too predictable. So, contrary to the upsetters, I'm going Michigan. I think they're going to win 78-71. I think that they're going to be frustrated that they were seeded as low as they are. I want to prove people wrong. I know some people are like, well, they went all the way to the Big Ten title game. They might be tired. And that is fair. UC San Diego's scrappy, but I am going with Michigan. If UC San Diego wins, it wouldn't shock me, but it just seems a little bit too obvious.
Jeffrey, I agree with you. I'm going with Michigan. I think this is a close game, though. Like, I would not be surprised if they pull another rabbit out of the hat. I'm going Michigan 75-73. I think Michigan is going to kind of be a little slumpy to start, and UC San Diego with a new opportunity, getting in for the first time in a long time. I think Michigan's going to get a wake-up call in the first half, and then they're going to get it rolling and pull it off at the end. But this next game here, the 4 versus 13, Texas A&M versus Yale. And the reason why I bring this up and why I want to get your thoughts on it is because Yale did it last year to an SEC team, the team a lot of people are picking to win the whole thing in Auburn. Are they going to do it again, this time to A&M?
It's a really great question. And I was looking at this game too, because this is a less obvious one, even though Yale upset Auburn last year. I don't think as many people are going to pick this one. I do, though, feel Yale's not as good this year. I watched Yale in their conference tournament some, and Danny Wolf was on Yale last year, and you know where he is. He's at Michigan. They don't have like that star player this year. They're good still, but I don't know if they're as good as last year. Texas A&M, though, worries me because they did not play very well on defense against Texas. And down the stretch of the season, they were shaky. I know the SEC was so tough, though. It's so hard to evaluate because all these teams went on a slump. Bama went on a little slump for a while there. You know, Missouri was like dead for a while. Then they just revitalized. Mississippi State. All these teams kind of struggled for a bit, you know. So I don't know if that's like indicative that like A&M's like falling off or anything. I don't think that's necessarily fair. Still had a fantastic season in a fantastic league. But yes, like we got Troy V. Appreciate you for being here. Troy V says, I think Yale wins. The Ivy League wins the first round game every once in a while. Absolutely. So
that's true.
It is probable that an upset could occur here. It is probable. Like, it's not like an outlier. It is very probable. And like, what do they always say? It's the Ivy League. Like they're smart, you know? So like they might not be the most athletic, but they're smart. I'm gonna let you pick, man, because I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it.
And here's the thing, Jeffrey. I'm gonna pick Texas A&M because I think they're angry. I think they're ticked off after that Texas game. I think they're coming in with more motivation, more hunger. If they had won that game, I would have possibly picked an upset. But I think Buzz Williams is going to have his guys ready, hungry to play again. And I think Yale, like you said, has lost the star power in Danny Wolf. But I don't think Texas A&M covers, though, the 7.5. Give me A&M 69-68. I think they hang on and survive.
I'll go Texas A&M 72-69. I think it's going to be really close, too. I wanted to pick an upset, but they looked good. And I know, it's such different levels of basketball. And a lot of times these mid-majors, they step up their level of play when they make these Cinderellas when they make the tournament because they know like they have to. But I don't know. A&M is very athletic. I don't know if Yale is going to be able to slow down Wade Taylor. Wade Taylor's a beast, man. That guy's a beast.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, didn't Wade Taylor make an all-SEC team too?
Yeah, he was all SEC first team. And
Yeah.
he don't miss free throws. He drives and drives and drives and gets to the line. Like, honestly, A&M did not play very well against Texas, and Wade Taylor was keeping him in the game because he just kept driving to the basket. I mean, so I think A&M survives. I think it will be close, though.
This next game, the 6-11 game, Ole Miss versus the winner of Texas and Xavier, correct?
Is that
Or
one
is it
Carolina?
Oh, goodness.
That one's Carolina, isn't it?
I think so. Hold
let me
on.
see. South
Yeah.
region. Yeah, we're in the South region. Yeah, it's Ole Miss and Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, real fast. Let's make an update. Okay. Well, North Carolina. Okay. We can pencil North Carolina in.
I'm sorry. I'm already picking. I'm picking Carolina. They're gonna win. Sorry, Chris Beard. You didn't get the IU job, and you're a little sad. Ole Miss is down a bit. You know, Carolina is like, we deserve to be in. Now I can't help it. I'm like 360. I'm kind of back in my Tar Heels here. They're gonna win. They're gonna win 85-74. They're on fire. Give me Carolina.
So Carolina leads 85-48 over San Diego State. And unless San Diego State's got a 60-point run in them, we could pencil Carolina in. So you're picking Carolina? Ole Miss has had a really good year.
They have.
One of the better years that they've had in a long time. But unfortunately, Carolina's playing better than them right now. They're playing more hungrier, and they're out to prove that they belong. Give me Carolina 77-64. I think they win by 13. I think they make a statement.
I hate to say that this game is making me change my tune so much on Carolina, but they're beating the crap out of them. I mean, look at this. Like, it's a demolition derby. I don't know. Appreciate we got Coach Smook Network for stopping by. Thanks for stopping by. So how's it going, fellas? Doing great. Talking about one of our favorite things to talk about every year. March Madness is our third time doing it in a row. It's always a blast. So we're doing great. And even though I was mad Carolina got in the tournament, man, I mean, it looks like they got a run in them. So I'm going for them
Jeffrey's
to
like
go
a tornado.
32.
He's like a tornado. 1 minute he's destroying this town, but then he turns back around and destroys this one.
I don't usually flip that fast on stuff. I'm still mad they got in over IU, but you know, like IU would not have beat San Diego State by 40. I mean,
well, Jeffrey, let's see if we flip on this. We got Iowa State Lipscomb in the 3-14. Is there an upset brewing, or does TJ Austinberger find a way out of this one? You want me to pick first, or you want to go first?
I don't think so. Iowa State's had a great year. They had like one game where they sucked, and that was a little problematic. But other than that, like, you had the Otzelberger rumors, but now that Indiana's made their hire, he's staying at Iowa State. I think they'll go on a bit of a run. I don't know if Iowa State is like Elite Eight material, but they'll go on a little bit of a run. Give me Iowa State 77-68.
Yeah, I think Iowa State. The loss of Caleb Gill has been big for this team all year long. It's shown his ability to shoot the three, but I think they've learned to play without him. And I think they win this one going away. I think they've got it together. And like you said, the rumors of him taking another job is gone. Give me Iowa State 83-68. I think it's close for at least the first 15, and then they open the doors up. Now this game right here, Jeffrey, the 7 versus 10 in the South, Marquette versus New Mexico. This is the game that I'm looking forward to watching out of the South region besides my own team.
This is an interesting game because the Mountain West is not making themselves look very good tonight. You know what I'm saying? They're getting exposed. And I know it's one team, but let's be real. Let's be fair. That the Mountain West lately and these past few tournaments have gotten a lot of teams in and haven't done a whole lot. You know, they're not really backing up, you know, the reason for being in all these teams. So Marquette has struggled at times down the stretch of the season. Like early on, I mean, there were people saying that this was going to be a top 4 seed, top 3 seed, and that kind of faded. They kept kind of piling up losses to all the good teams in the Big East. And like the ACC, there wasn't a lot of great opportunities for big wins in the Big East other than, you know, the top teams. A lot of the, you know, the bottom of the Big East was not very good. So Marquette, that's why they're now a 7 seed. New Mexico, though, I was higher on New Mexico until I saw them at the end of the season. They kind of didn't look that good. So this game could go either way because when you look at New Mexico and their season and how like they started out like Mountain West play doing very well, it's kind of ironic because I don't know if you saw Austin, and I don't know if like Chad if you saw, but the Mountain West was very weird this year, where you had like San Diego State and you had New Mexico and you had Utah State start out, you know, like the beginning and the middle of the season, they were like the 3 best teams in the Mountain West, and then down the stretch, those teams started to struggle. Utah State choked up at the end. New Mexico choked up at the end. San Diego State royally choked up and almost missed the tournament because of it. And the way they're playing tonight, they should have missed the tournament. So then you look at the other side of the Mountain West, and then you look at Colorado State, Boise State. Those teams came on late. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if it means anything. But basically, I'm saying that New Mexico is not playing their best basketball right now. And I know that they've had a week and a half to simmer on them losing in the Mountain West tournament. So, to maybe fix some of the issues that they have going on right now. But to me, they just haven't impressed lately. Marquette really hasn't either. They barely survived against Xavier. I know Xavier's been playing a lot better, but they barely survived against Xavier in the Big East tournament. And like I said, down the stretch of the season, just have not been playing as good of basketball. So, honestly, I'm going to go with Marquette. I think that Marquette will win this game about 74-68. I think it'll be pretty close. But to me, the Mountain West is disappointed. They have not looked as good, in the past few tournaments and down the stretch of this season, and New Mexico in particular. So I'm going to go with Marquette. Now, while we wait for Austin to return, because Austin will be right back, I am going to move on to the next game. We got RC in basketball. Appreciate you for stopping by, RC. Say, hey, guys, I can't wait. It's almost time. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been live talking basketball, but definitely appreciate you for coming on in, RC. Always glad when you are in the chat. Glad to be back for another live stream talking March Madness with a friend Austin. So it's been funny, and got a game on right now with Carolina and San Diego State. And man, again, San Diego State is just getting destroyed. But I am going to move on before Austin returns to Michigan State and Bryant. Michigan State, they're a 2 seed right now, and they had the best season that they've had with Izzo in years. Like, it's been a while since Michigan State, you could say, was like a legit title contender. Like, I don't think anybody's really saying that they're going to win it all, but at the same time, they're also, this is the best team they've had in a considerably long time. It's been a while. Then you look at Bryant, they're 15 seed, small school. Anything can happen. It's March Madness. But Michigan State's playing very well right now. And I know they lost in the Big Ten tournament, but the Big Ten tournament has a lot of really solid. They had a lot of really solid teams this year in the Big Ten. So I'm going to go with Michigan State. I think they're going to win this game like 90 to about 71. I skipped ahead to Michigan State, but we'll go back to Marquette, New Mexico. Austin, I picked Marquette. To me, my reasoning is that the Mountain West has really struggled down the stretch. To me, they've really struggled down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
of this season, especially the teams that were projected to make the tournament. Boise State, Colorado State went on the runs at the end. New Mexico, Utah State, San Diego State struggled down the stretch. Marquette has struggled too, but I think they win.
Yeah, this is excuse me. This is one of them games. Like I said, I'm looking forward to it. I think honestly, it's a game that I could see an upset, a 10 over a 7. I really could. But Marquette, coming off that heartbreaking loss, I think Marquette will get it done. Be a close game. Give me Marquette 75-73. I think Shaka's good for one.
Yeah, at least one. At least one.
But now the 2 versus 15, Michigan State versus Bryant. I mean, please tell me Tom Izzo's going to win this game at least. I mean, it is March.
Yeah, I picked Michigan State by like 20. I mean, they're gonna easily win. I mean, this is the best Michigan State team in years. It could be the last best team that he has. We'll see what he trots out next year. But like Izzo, I mean, we were even saying last year, like, yeah, they've been kind of sneaking into the tournament last few years. You know, it's kind of taken that Jim Boeheim Syracuse trajectory where like had all those great runs, and then like the end of his career, he's just kind of like mid, kind of sneaking into the tournament. That's what Michigan State was kind of doing. And then you look at this year. You know what I'm saying? Like this year, just so much better. So to me, I don't see nowhere close to an upset. They'll easily win.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't win the Big Ten, to be honest with you. But I mean, that's what we love about March. I'll say this: I think they should win going away. Like, I won't spoil my Final Four pick when we do it later, but I think Michigan State can win it all. That's how good I think they are. But to get on with this game, give me Michigan State 88-61. I think they win running away.
Yeah, I mean they should, because I mean they're a really, really good team, and they got a Hall of Fame coach. I wouldn't see why the seeding they got, Izzo's going to go on a run.
Now we can move on to the East region, where number 1 Duke will play the winner of Mount St. Mary's or America, which I picked Mount St. Mary's, you picked America. I mean,
Duke
no
big.
Cooper. I mean, with no Cooper Flag, does Duke cover the spread?
I mean, I think with or without Cooper Flag, they're going to win either way. I think with Cooper Flag, which there's a chance he plays. I don't know if he's been ruled out. I have not looked at that, but if he plays, I think Duke wins by 25 plus. If he doesn't play, I think they win by like 18-20.
I'll say if Duke. Oh crap! There we go. I'll fix that in just a second. Zooming in, people, technology, but we're good. I got Duke winning by at least 20. I think Duke will win 92-64, no matter who they play. But in the 8-9 game, hold on. Daggone it. Pardon the technology. We were doing so good.
Yeah, sometimes it just wants to mess with you, if you know what I mean. There we go. We got it back. That's a good game, too. The 8-9 game, Mississippi State, Baylor. That's a good game because Mississippi State started out really hot, and then they with the gauntlet of the SEC, it seems like it's just a recurring thing to say that all of the SEC teams kind of faded down the stretch. It felt like they did because of playing so many great teams. You're gonna keep, you're gonna keep getting worn down, and you're gonna lose games. And then you look at Baylor. We know Scott Drew. We know winning the title there. He's done great work turning around a program that was left for dead 20 years ago. But this season, Baylor has not been that great. Started out pretty well, but the Big 12, good conference. But, man, they dropped some bad games this year. I mean, games they should have won. And and even though the committee has them as a 9 seed, I frankly thought Baylor should have been a 10 or an 11 seed. We're closer to the bubble than that. in my opinion. They did not do very well down the stretch. So this is kind of one of those games. It's like Creighton, Louisville, kind of in a way where you have like the new kids of the block in Mississippi State and like the old guard with Baylor. It's kind of funny seeing the old guard in Baylor because like prior to Scott Drew, they were terrible, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like they've been consistent for the last decade of being good. So who wins out? I honestly don't know. I feel like Mississippi State's the better team, but I do think Baylor's got, you know, that longevity with their coach, you know, and the consistency there. So it's going to be interesting. I'll let you pick first though, if you want.
Well, I'll say this too, Jeffrey. The thing is too, with Mississippi State, last year they played Michigan State in round 1, and I think that was a good learning experience for them. But Baylor has won the title more recently, even though they've kind of fallen off, taken not a deep nosedive, but they've kind of they've shown weaknesses under Scott Drew. And you remember Scott Drew was in the coaching talk to go to Kentucky. You remember that? Remember hearing about that? And like you said, in the Big 12 has dropped some bad games. They have lost games that they should not have. But in this game here, the 8-9, it's one of those 50-50 games. Mississippi State's young, but you can make an argument they played in the best conference all year long, and they're made for this. But I can't go against Baylor and Scott Drew. I just can't do it. I think the experience of Scott Drew in these big game moments, I think Mississippi State is still got a little bit to learn. Give me Baylor 64-61.
That's tough. I don't know. I mean, because Baylor at times has really looked bad. Like, they've really looked bad. Honestly, of all the teams that ended up not being anywhere close to the bubble, they were the one that should have been, like, to me, very close to the bubble. But yeah, Mississippi State, like, I remember that game last year against Michigan State. They were bad. Like, they were really bad. And a lot of people felt that they could win that game. So, I do think Mississippi State's better this year. I think they're better. And I like Chris Jans. I think he's doing a good job there. It's not like it's an easy place to win. It is hard. It's hard to go against a coach like Scott Drew, though. I think he might have convinced me. I was going to go with Mississippi State, but I think he might have convinced me. 64-63, Baylor. I was going to go State, but, man, they were pretty horrible last year in the tournament. Baylor, give me the Bears. It's going to be close, but you flipped me on that one. I was going with the Bulldogs, but give me the Bears.
Well, let's see. Well, here's the thing. I wasn't trying to flip you, but hey,
it's a fair argument, though. I mean, Drew, he's been here. Like Jans, you know. I know he went to the tournament with New Mexico State too, but it's like they were really bad last year in the tournament. It's kind of hard to overlook that. So I agree.
This next one, the 5 versus 12, Oregon versus Liberty, and this is another one of them. A lot of people are picking the upset. Jeffrey, last year, you remember there's a lot of people picking the 12 over the 5 and they're stringing the upsets, and they're doing it again.
You got Troy V saying Liberty's going to avenge the bowl game loss to Oregon last year by winning this game. That's hilarious. Also, like RC saying, don't worry, UNC is going to be one and done. Are we sure about that? Well, are we sure about that? Like, I don't know. They're looking really good right now, unless San Diego State's really bad. But Liberty, I mean, they're a school that's been here before. They've made the tournament before. I mean, they have a solid squad. I did watch them, though, in their conference tournament, and I know that it's hard to gauge a team just based off their conference tournament, but they struggled against Kennesaw State. They were not playing very well in that game. Oregon, I agree with Hummus's comment here. They should not have been a 5 seed. I'm really shocked that they were a 5 seed. Like, how's Michigan a 5 seed and then Oregon's a 5 seed? It doesn't make sense. Michigan had a much better resume, and I do agree as well that the seeding was botched a lot by the committee. They did a terrible job with seeding. One of the worst of any year I've ever seen. It was just so inconsistent. But with all that being said, Oregon's a 5 seed. They had a good year. First year in the Big Ten. Felt they played pretty well. But I mean, Dana Altman, he's another coach though, right? Like he's experienced. He's made tons of tournaments. He's made some runs, not like other coaches have, but he's made some runs. I think Oregon wins this one. I'm going to go Oregon 76, Liberty 69.
I'll say this. Liberty's defense, very stingy. I watched a couple of their games, very stingy. They turn you over. They don't give up north of 70 points. But Oregon, Dana Altman's been here before. They're experienced. They put it together normally around this time. Give me Oregon 72-64. I think they'll run away with it late. Now, we've got the 4 versus the 13. We've got Arizona versus Akron.
This is a trendy pick too, because Arizona chokes.
Yes.
They've done it. They did it against Buffalo years ago, and it's slipping me. Who did they lose to recently in the first round? They lost to Buffalo like 6 seasons ago in the first round, but it was a couple years ago or last year or something like they lost again. I can't remember.
Who was that? Before who was it?
I can't remember, but they choke. That's all I know. They choke.
Yeah, and Akron, they're a team as hot as anybody I've seen in the mid-majors. And Arizona, and here's the thing too, Jeffrey. Arizona always seems to have the really good teams that everyone seems to pick to think that they can go to the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the year with DeAndre Ayton? A lot of people had him winning the whole thing, and that's the year they lost to Buffalo. And last year with Caleb Love and Peril Larson, a lot of people picked them to come out of their region, and they lost to Clemson. So I'm complex. And this is Caleb Love's last year, and he's really been what's holding this team up, if I'm being completely honest at times. And Akron's playing as hot as anybody.
They lost to Princeton.
Yes, Princeton.
That's it. They lost to Princeton. I couldn't remember. I had to look it up. It didn't suddenly come back to me. I had to look it up. It was Princeton though, and Princeton won their next game against Missouri. They went to the Sweet 16. But yeah, like literally, Arizona. I don't trust you. You do not. No. You're not reliable. I know last year they did not lose in the first round. They went to the Sweet 16, but still, they're not a trustworthy team. So this is a trendy upset pick for sure.
Here's the thing. I'll say this.
It is a MAC school, though. The MAC is not usually good.
I really want to pick an upset here because of what Arizona's done. I picked them to go to the Final Four a couple years ago, and they burned me. But you know what? I think Tommy Lloyd's good for one. I think they're good enough to get past Akron. I think they won't cover. Give me Arizona 84-79. I'm not confident in that pick.
If this was like a Conference USA team or it was Princeton, right? An Ivy League team. If it was something like that, I would be picking upset, but it's the MAC. It is very hard to pick the MAC. They don't usually win. They don't usually go far. So I'm going to go with Arizona to win 78-70. But I could see it. And if that happens, I'm going to be kicking myself for not doing it. But I think Arizona will win. They don't always lose early. They just have a history of it. So we'll see. Going to be interesting. This is a game here. BYU, VCU. Love the symmetry that they're, with the syllables, right? Like I love BYU, VCU. It just works, right? So the 6-11 game. VCU's a good team.
Mhm.
They're a good team, but BYU, one of the hottest teams in the country down the stretch of the season. I mean, if they had been playing like this all year, they'd have been a protected seed at the top. Like they were on fire down the stretch. And I don't know about you, but I still cry foul in that Arizona game. People were saying like Arizona got screwed out of that game. I felt like BYU. That was fair. I don't know if you saw that game. That foul call at the end. The people were talking about that for like 2 weeks. It was insane. They played
Yeah.
great down the stretch. This is a tough game to pick, though. I just feel like BYU's better all over, but VCU, they typically are tough when March comes around. They are tough, and they've made runs before. I know they still kind of banking off the Shaka Smart Final Four a long time ago in 2011, but they're still a team that a lot of people are like, hey, when they make March Madness, you gotta back the Rams. This is an interesting game.
Well, and I'll say this too. I want to shout out BYU. Mark Pope leaves for Kentucky, and I remember the talks. We left him for dead. Like me and you, we talked in the offseason on the phone. We were like, "How's BYU going to recover from this?" Because Mark Pope he was a really good recruiter, but
I didn't see it.
Kevin Young, what a phenomenal job he's done at BYU. The fact that they're back in the tournament again shows that even though Mark Pope left, Kevin Young, the program's still in good shape and they're going to be good for years to come. But VCU is very stingy on defense. They can get stops. I know this is another trendy upset, but I'm liking the A10 champs in this game. Do I pick the upset? Do you want me to pick first? Or you want to pick first?
I'll let you pick first. I'll see what you got.
Oh boy, I don't.
It's also Will's team too, so it's hard.
Because BYU, they did beat Kansas. They drilled Kansas. Not
That
Kansas.
was when Bill Self was on the hot seat for no, good reason for like a week. Like, it was like, oh, Bill Self, he's going to Indiana. We want him gone. It's like, what is wrong with you people? Like, you're not getting rid of Bill Self. The Hall of Fame coach has won you 2 national titles. Like, all right, you just got shellacked. It's gonna be okay. You're still gonna make the tournament. Like that was cracking me up. But yeah, BYU did lay the wood on them. Yes.
And so they give me some confidence. But there's another part of me, Jeffrey, like VCU, they're, you know what? I'm not doing this just for Will, but I like the Rams in this game. Give me VCU to pull off an upset. 61-57 VCU in a low-scoring game.
Yeah, that's what makes you want to favor them because they're defensive oriented. They're scrappy. They hit shots. They're a tough out. I don't want to do it, man. I don't want to pick against Will. I really don't. But I already picked for one of my, one of my friends' teams. I picked your Louisville Card, so I'm sorry. I'm going BYU, man. They've been too hot. They've been too hot. I'm going BYU 68-64. Hope I don't regret that. I'm still rooting for VCU for Will, but I'm going BYU. I don't know why. They've been playing great. We'll see, but I'm going with BYU.
This next game, the 3 versus 14, Wisconsin
could choke.
And here's the thing. I got a backstory to share, and I know this is my sister's alma mater. She lives in Montana. She went to school there, and this is her team. So I kind of have extra pressure on this game because if I don't pick my sister's alma mater, she's going to be mad. But Wisconsin, I mean, they lost a lot of people to the transfer portal. One being Chucky Hemper. He was the biggest one. And I was questioning, could Wisconsin recover?
Yeah, I thought they were going to have a big down year, and then they just honestly had one of their best seasons in a while, kind of like Izzo. I mean, Greg Gard was kind of, I wouldn't say he was on the hot seat, but he was feeling some pressure. And this season definitely has helped him out a lot. Absolutely. I agree with you.
And I feel like, too, them being a 3 seed, I feel like that's a little high. And I know why they put them there. It's because they made it to the finals in the Big Ten. But Wisconsin being a 3, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. Are you buying it, Jeffrey?
No, I don't. I think they should have been a little lower, 4 or 5.
And here's the thing. Let me school you up on Montana because I've watched a couple of their games. Here's the thing. They're very
We didn't know
small.
nothing about Mount St. Mary's in America, but we're getting some Montana scoop now.
Well, because my sister,
That's fair. It's awesome.
That's all she watches is Montana. But they're a small team, but they're fast, they're lengthy, and they could shoot the 3 ball. And they have a pesky defense. They led their conference in, I believe, steals and blocks. They're a really young team, though. That's what scares me. If they get hot, their confidence goes through the roof. But they're a team, if they're not making shots, their confidence goes down and they play poorly. And I don't know if that would make you change your pick if you are going to pick the upset, but it's just a little trivia for you. They're a team with not much size, though. And that's where Wisconsin, I think, might have the edge because Wisconsin is a little bit of a bigger team.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you pick first, Jeffrey. What do you think?
You know what? I'm not a Badgers fan at all. Give me Montana. I'll do it. You know what? I'll do it. All right, we got some alma mater action for your sister. The Badgers, they're a bane of Indiana's existence. Haven't won in the Kohl Center since '98. They choke early in the tournament a lot like Arizona. Give me Montana. I'll do it. Usually there's 114 or higher that wins. So yeah, we'll go with Montana. I'll go 74-69.
Mm-hmm. And RC says in the chat, he says Montana can pull one game. You never know. Montana sounds like UC San Diego. Both teams hustlers to the maximum. Yeah, I could see it. I really like Jeffrey. You picked Montana, but I kind of talked myself into picking Wisconsin. You know what? Give me Wisconsin. And to my sister, if she's watching, I'm sorry. Give me Wisconsin 65-61. I think they'll pull it out at the end. Give me Wisconsin. Now this game right here, the 7 versus 10, St. Mary's versus number 10 Vanderbilt.
I like this game, but Randy Bennett, man, he's one of those. He wins a game, usually every year. He wins a game.
Yes, and the thing is too, Vanderbilt, Jeffrey, they're in the tournament. Like to them, this is icing on the cake if they win a game, because Vanderbilt typically does not win that many games. They've been historically bad in basketball, but I think they really got it put together. And remember last year, Jerry Stackhouse, me and you went back and forth on whether they should have made the tournament last year because they had those real quality wins. Well, here we are now. Vanderbilt's a 10 seed, but like you said, Randy Bennett's one of them. He always finds a way to win one. Kind of like Mark Few, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. St. Mary's, I mean, they lost Aiden Bohaney to UConn, Jeffrey, and you thought that was going to really hurt this team, and they're a 7th seed.
Isn't it crazy, though? Sorry to interrupt, but isn't it crazy, though, that Aiden Mahaney ended up ruining himself? Like, he goes to UConn, he does nothing. He doesn't even play hardly. He's a bench guy. And like, he was the star at St. Mary's. And you're right. Like, I said that. I remember. I made a video on it. Like last year, I was like, Aiden Mahaney's leaving St. Mary's, going to UConn. This is going to be tough for St. Mary's to overcome. Randy Bennett's a great coach, so I'm like, it's not going to be impossible. But I'm like, you know what? That's a massive loss. Things are going to be, significantly worse for St. Mary's this season. And you know what? They just keep doing their thing. They just keep winning.
And Jeffrey, they won the WCC by 3 games, the most in program history.
They did choke in the tournament, though. The WCC tournament, they did show that was a bad performance from them. But in the regular season, though, they were great. So I can't really fault them for one bad game against Gonzaga in the tournament to say, hey, like, to discount all that they've done. Like, they got Mitchell Saxton still. Marcelonis is good. They got good players. Vanderbilt, they faded down the stretch, had a weak non-conference. You look at their resume, had a lot of holes, and they're a team that maybe could have been closer to the bubble. That Tennessee win really carried them. So I'm gonna go with St. Mary's. I'm already pulling it. I'm going with Randy Bennett. He's too reliable. St. Mary's is too reliable. They're gonna win a game. I'm going 70-66. St. Mary's.
Well, the thing for me too is, Jeffrey, Vandy's inexperienced. They haven't been here much as St. Mary's has. Give me the Gales to win 55-53 in a sluggish game. Now, here's the game, Jeffrey. Alabama, Robert Morris, your boys at Bama, the 2 versus 15. Is Bama's defense, is it going to catch them here? Is Robert Morris going to be able to do enough to upset Bama?
No.
Highly doubt it.
No, I think as long as Grant Nelson is back, Alabama is good to go. If he's not, could be a little interesting. But according to Nate Oates, he should be back. And if he's close to 100%, that would be fantastic. I think Alabama will – their defense is not going to hurt them against a team like this. If it's going to hurt them, it's going to be further down the line of the tournament. Give me Bama to win 92-71.
I agree with you. Even if they don't have Grant Nelson, I think Mark Sears, his veteran leadership, should be enough. I think Bama won't cover. I'll go 92-84. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I think they give up a lot, but they'll get it done at the end. All right, Jeffrey, we're halfway home. Let's go to the West now. West, young son, West. The number 1 team, not Nick Foles State, pardon me. Losing it. Number 1, Florida against number 16, Nick Foles State. Jeffrey, do the Gators cover?
I don't know if they cover again, just like with Auburn, because you don't know if at the end of the game, like bringing the bench. And that's always a thing, because like I said, when you're really good and you're blowing out like these potential Cinderellas, the low seeds like this, 12 through 16, if you're blowing them out, the coaches typically want to put their bench in to give those walk-ons some run on a March Madness floor. You know, like that they typically maybe wouldn't do that in the regular season as much, but in the tournament, it's gonna be like, hey, we like, you'll never. This is like the peak of your career. Like, you get to step foot on the floor during March Madness. This is awesome. So like Florida could be up by a lot, more than 28, and then bring on the bench, and then Norfolk State could score some, and then cover. But regardless, I think Florida easily wins. I don't. I mean, these 16 seeds, none of them really impress me. Like, I know, that they're not supposed to. That's why they're 16 seeds. But like, you don't really have like a UMBC type team here. I think Florida wins like 95-63. They'll probably cover.
Yeah, I'll go Florida 88-58. I think they're playing the best basketball maybe out of all the 1 seeds, maybe except for the exception of Houston, which we'll get to here in a minute out in the Midwest. But give me Florida, runaway. Now, here we go, Jeffrey. Now we're getting into, I think this might be the best bracket we're going to talk about all night. And it may affect who we pick for our Final Four here in a minute. But the 8-9 game, UConn versus Oklahoma, the back-to-back national champions, are they going out round one? Can Porter Mosers do it? So we'll have to guarantee a new national champion, or is Dan Hurley good for one more? Is he good for at least one win against Oklahoma?
This was a tough game. UConn did not look good most of the season for their standards, obviously. Like I mean, I know some people are gonna be like, well, they won back-to-back national titles. Anything's gonna be a downgrade from that. It's not just that they downgraded. It's kind of like Baylor. They fell off this season. Like they had multiple stretches this season where I mean, the Seton Hall game, like I don't care how bad, like your team is compared to like the previous year. You know, like the fact that UConn is an 8 seed in the tournament with a loss to Seton Hall is insane. I don't even care the game was on the road. If anybody paid attention to the Big East this year, they know how bad Seton Hall was. Like DePaul and Georgetown were way better than Seton Hall. Butler was better than Seton Hall. Like, Seton Hall was bad. They were horrid. Because unfortunately, Shaheen Holloway lost all of his good players from this past season. It's not really his fault. Like he lost everybody. But not to go off on that tangent, it's just UConn did not impress me. And I know that end of the year they kind of rebounded from that, but they just don't look very good. Like a guy like Aiden Mahaney, who was supposed to come in and be one of their best players, and he's disappointed. Their whole team's just disappointed. They don't have a floor general in Tristan Newton. They don't have Sonogo. They don't have Klingon. They just don't have those studs this season.
No, they're missing a lot.
I mean, I know they have Solomon Ball, who's like a dunk machine, but he's kind of an inconsistent player. Like, I just don't love their team. I don't love it. And then you look at Oklahoma, and they were a team that for a minute, like, are they going to get in the tournament? Like, they faded. Like, they do this every year. Oklahoma with Porter Moser start out the season great, and then they just fall apart. But they found a way to stabilize at the very end and get in. But
it kind of goes to, not to cut you off, Jeffrey. The one thing with Oklahoma is they're kind of like their counterpart, Texas. Jeremiah Fears. That, he arguably to me is one of the best players in the country.
That's fair.
I mean, like, you talk about Texas. Where would Oklahoma be without Jeremiah Fears? Like,
not in the tournament.
He's single-handedly keeping them above flow. Like, he is what has kept them hanging around in all these games. We want to talk about Texas. How, and you're very valid in your Texas point, Jeffrey. Very valid. But you could say the same for Oklahoma. If Jeremiah Fears was not as good a player as he is as a freshman, man, mind you, he's a freshman doing all this. He's still got 2 or 3 more years he could grow if he decides to stay. Like Oklahoma, to me, they're very inconsistent. And they did this last year, if you remember, too. They were undefeated to start this year, and then all of a sudden, they start dropping games, and they go on a losing streak. It's hard to bet against the champs, too, though.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to that experience factor. Like, we know what Dan Hurley is. We know he's going to be at his most amped come tournament time. Like, he's going to do everything he can to will his team with all of his screaming and his antics on the sideline to get him over the top. I mean, Liam McNeely's a good player. Like RC saying that it hits him or buzz. He is a good player, but he's kind of inconsistent. He was very impressive early, and then he kind of faded a bit as teams kind of realized, like, hey, we got to, like, stop him. And if we do, then they're more beatable. Like, Jeremiah Fears and Trey Johnson are so good that even when teams are, like, keying in on them, they can still score. Whereas I feel like Liam McNeely can be shut down. It's two different things. But I think UConn wins this game, though, because of Dan Hurley. I don't think they're going to go on a run. No, I'm not picking UConn to go further. Spoiler alert. I'm not picking them to go any further. But
so Jeffrey,
they will win this game, in my opinion. I think they win 72-70.
So basically what you're telling me, Jeffrey, is they're not going to be one of your Final Four teams when we make that pick, when we end it here in a minute. Okay. Spoiler alert, UConn's not going to be one of Jeffrey's teams.
Are they one of yours?
I won't spoil that. We'll save that.
Okay. I mean, hey, I guess I shouldn't have spoiled it, but I mean, I don't see it. Just flat
Listen,
out don't see
listen,
it.
listen. I'll save that for the end before we head out. But
All right.
I'll say this. I'm with you. I think it'll be a close game because, like you said, UConn has been up and down. But I think, like you said, Dan Early in the championship pedigree. Give me the Huskies, but I think Fierce keeps them in it for a while. Give me the Huskies 63-62. I think they win it on a buzzer beater.
It's going to be a good game. It's going to be close. I don't see it being a blowout either way. And then we got this 5-12 game. Colorado State, one of the hottest teams in college basketball
Another
out the stretch of the season. I mean, unbelievable how well they play. Like, they were left for dead. Had a bad non-conference, bad start to conference play. And then suddenly I'm starting to see them on, like, the edges of the bubble. People are like, well, Colorado State's won, like, 5 in a row. And I'm like, oh, well, they're not even close. Then they won again. And then they won again. Oh, they beat Utah State. They beat Boise State. They beat, again and again and again. It's like, okay. And then it was like, well, Colorado State was so bad out of conference that most likely they're going to have to win the Mountain West tournament to get in. Well, what do? They win the Mountain West tournament. And based off their seeding, they would have not gotten in if they lost to Boise, which is that fair considering how they were playing? But again, the Mountain West not really making themselves look good with San Diego State tonight. But look who's favored.
Colorado State.
Has that ever happened where a 12 seed is favored over a 5? And honestly, I still don't know how Memphis was a 5, by the way. I don't get it. They should have been a lower to me.
It's because of the UConn win. Let's be for real with that. It's because they beat UConn, and the committee is honoring that.
I don't think that's enough, though, especially when they lost a couple of bad games in the American Conference, to me.
Here's the thing, Jeffrey. I'm not disagreeing with you, but the committee, they're so... Not to get on too much of a tangent here, but it's like if you're going to honor Memphis's win over UConn, then do it for everyone else as well. If we're going to do that, we need to honor Indiana's win because Indiana has the best win, I think, in this tournament field. If we're going to talk about that, one of the best wins, and you would even agree with me on that, wouldn't you, Jeffrey?
Especially among bubble teams. I mean, the only bubble team that had a better win than Indiana against Michigan State was San Diego State's win over Houston. And that's the only reason they got in the tournament. But what a lot of people don't understand is that San Diego State beat Houston in like the third game of the season. Could they beat them now? No. By no means would they win that game.
It'd be ugly.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we talk about how you're playing down the stretch. I know, because I've said this in football, and fans get mad when I say it. Like, no, we need to count all the wins the same. Because if you count them toward the end, then that's unfair. It skews the metrics. I understand that it skews the metrics. But in basketball, though, you got 31 games. If you beat a team, like San Diego State beats a team like Houston in the third game of the season, but then down the stretch, they're losing to bubble teams and losing to UNLV and stuff like that, then that kind of shows you where they're at right now. They're not that team. You know what I'm saying? They're not that team that beat Houston. And Houston's not that team that would lose to San Diego State when they're pouring it on everybody in the Big 12. So that's why I think that type stuff is a little bit skewed. Like Memphis, let's be fair, Memphis has struggled. Barely beat Wichita. Barely won their second round game in the conference tournament. Lost to Wichita in the regular season. They haven't done all that good lately. They do not look like a 5 seed. That's why Colorado State's favored. Now, does that mean that they're gonna lose? No. But I'm just saying that you can't treat all wins the same in basketball when a team is showing you how they're playing lately, to me.
Well, and here's the thing too, Jeffrey, is PJ Haggard. He's another one of them guys. He's what's holding Memphis up. Like, why isn't this getting talked about enough? PJ Haggard had 30.5 against Wichita the other day. I don't know if you saw it, and he finished with like 42, I think it was. He's single-handedly keeping Memphis afloat, like Jeremiah Fears and Trey Johnson is with Texas. Like, and not a lot of people are discussing that. Like, he's single-handedly keeping Penny Hardaway's job, in my opinion, from being on fire. Because at the beginning of the year, Jeffrey, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Penny Hardaway's seat on fire? Wasn't Memphis fans calling?
he was feeling some heat. Like some people are like, yeah, he's underperforming because I mean he's had a lot of talent considering the school he's at in Memphis. You know, they're not a high major, they're a mid major. Considering that, like he gets really good players for that level, and every year that Florida Atlantic game is just a microcosm of Memphis. Like that game single-handedly just bolted Dusty May up the coaching ranks because it propelled him to that Final Four. I mean, people forget that their very next game was against Fairleigh Dickinson, right? It was a perfect run for them, just a perfect run, and it came with a 1-point win by Memphis because they turned it over in the final seconds of the game, and then Florida Atlantic scored. It's like these type of things people don't look at, but it's like that game hurt Penny because that team was better than Florida Atlantic, in my opinion, and they choked it away. And then you look at this year's team, and it's like they got a lot of talent, and they got one of the best players in college basketball in Haggerty, but they just don't look that good sometimes. And their defense, they're lazy. They are lazy on defense, and you cannot win in March being lazy on defense. So I don't know. They're the better team on paper, but Colorado State's the better ball right now.
And here's the thing. PJ Haggert's the best player on the floor in probably any game that Memphis plays. And even in this game, obviously. But is he going to be enough? Because like you said, Memphis doesn't put the Ritz on. One of my favorite things I hear, so I watch a lot of Denver Nuggets basketball, not to go too far off a rant, but Chris Marlowe, one of the commentators, likes to say they need to put on the Ritz, meaning put on the defense. He likes to say put on the Ritz. And Memphis doesn't exactly do that. They just sit there and be like, oh, he missed a shot. Okay. But here's the thing, though, Jeffrey. It goes back to Colorado State is being picked by a lot of people for the upset. That's why I'm not confident picking that.
The other thing is that Colorado State's been on fire. He played great basketball, but is that going to translate over to this game? If they play as well as they played in their final 7 games of the season, in this game, they're going to win. If they have the effort that they showed in the final 7 games of the season, they're going to win. But I don't know if they're going to do that because I've seen 2 different Colorado States. The early Colorado State sucked. The Colorado State I saw at the end of the year, I mean, they were money. They were playing fantastic. So,
do you want me to pick first, or do you want to pick first?
Honestly, I'm gonna pick the 12 seed. I'm gonna go Colorado State. They play harder, and if that translates, Memphis doesn't. They don't play hard enough. If they're lazy, I mean, we don't know until the game's tipped. But if Colorado State is the effort they've showed lately, they're gonna win. So I'm gonna go Colorado State 74-72. I think they're gonna win.
I'll flip. I'll take Memphis.
I want to go Memphis, but man, they just don't play defense, and that's not good. We'll see though.
Like, I'll take Memphis. That way, one of us will be right. I'll take Memphis. I think PJ Haggard, he's the best player on the floor. I think he'll be just enough. Give me Memphis 88-86 in a high-scoring game.
Should be good.
This game here, I'm really looking forward to. The 4 versus the 13. Maryland versus Grand Canyon and the 4 versus 13.
It's a trendy pick because Grand Canyon, they've upset people before. They got good fans for that level of a school too. But Maryland, I mean, they're physical. Can Grand Canyon handle the physicality?
Here's the thing with Maryland. They've got 2 really good players. And one of them, Julian Reese, who's Angel Reese's younger brother, I think, or is it older brother? One of the 2.
Who is older? They're about the same age. It could be Julian Reese. Because I know that, like, women's college basketball players, they have to be in college for a while before they go pro. Like, they can't just go pro, like, after their freshman year, like, men's college basketball players. So I would think it's her, that she's a little older, but they're close to the same age. But
to the point, though, as you can see, me and Jeffrey don't do our research on people's ages. But Julian Reese, though, one of the standout players in the Big Ten. I believe he made an all Big Ten team. Correct? Am I wrong?
He did, and Derek Queen was great too. He was fantastic.
Yes, I was about ready to get to him here. Just thank you for bringing that up. Derek Queen and Julian Reese, they've been one of the best dynamic duos in the Big Ten, and they're a good reason for a lot of Maryland's success. But like you said, Grand Canyon's a trendy pick. The Antelopes, they've been to the tournament a couple times. They made an upset last year. I mean, Maryland, they've been to this dance once before. They made the Sweet 16 a couple of years ago.
Honestly, I'm going to go Maryland. I hate to say it because I like Grand Canyon and I know they can win, but I'm going to go Maryland on this one. They're too physical, man. I don't know if Grand Canyon can handle that. I mean, the Big Ten, they choke a lot in the tournament, but I'll be shocked if Grand Canyon can handle the size. The only way they can is if they get them in foul trouble.
I think Maryland, I think it'll be, like you said, a physical game. I think Grand Canyon will come out with the juice, but in the end, I think Queen and Reese are going to be too much. Give me Maryland 75-63.
I'll go 76-68.
And this game here, another trendy upset. Here we go again, Jeffrey. More trendy upsets.
This is a tough region.
No, number 6 Missouri versus number 11 Drake. I'll let you go first, Jeffrey.
Drake, their coach, a lot of people were like, hey, is he going to leave? He was a trendy pick for the IU job, and we got DeVries from West Virginia instead. But Ben McCollum, he's a trendy pick for the Iowa job and all that. So I don't know if that's going to be on his mind. One thing I will say about Drake is that Drake tends to make the tournament, but they don't win. Ben McCollum could be different from when Darian DeVries was at Drake. But usually when they make the tournament, they don't win. No. Missouri, though, they're kind of like Mississippi State, where, Missouri, under Dennis Gates, he won that one time, right? He won that one game. That was that 7-10 game. I forgot who they played in that 7-10 game that year, but they did win that game. It was a Mountain West team. It was like Colorado State or something.
Yeah, it was a Mountain West team because
it was like Colorado State, I think. But the thing is, though, you know who they lost to in the next round? It was Princeton, the team that beat Arizona. So they're not reliable.
All for nothing.
Like you beat, I think it was Colorado State. I swear it was them because I think they had Roddy. That was David Roddy, I think, that year when they had him. I could be wrong. Could be having my years wrong, but I think it might have been that year. But Missouri won in the first round. And then the next game, they lost to Princeton in the round 32. It's like, dude, you got the premier chance to get to the Sweet 16 and you blow it. But like I said, Drake doesn't normally win. And the thing about Drake, too, the thing with Drake, they play a slow brand of basketball, which is a big reason why Indiana fans did not want Ben McCollum, because it's like he plays a slow brand of basketball. It's not Virginia Tony Bennett level, but it is slow. I don't know how that impacts his game with Missouri, but all I know is Missouri is not super trustworthy, and Drake typically doesn't win a tournament game. So this is kind of a tough one, man.
Listen. I know a lot of people are picking the upset here because Drake's been one of the best basketball teams we've watched for a mid-major. But Dennis Gates and Missouri, they've been streaky as well. They beat Alabama. And I hate to bring it up, Jeffrey, because I know you're in the spirit of Bama. You got the hat on. You're in a good mood. But once again, Missouri is another one of them teams. They're inexperienced. This is Dennis Gates. They made the tournament a couple years ago, and they lost in the first round. And here's the thing. I haven't picked many upsets tonight. I really haven't. I've been more on the conservative side.
I've picked more than you. Which is
I don't think I picked. I think I picked 0 and you picked like 2 or 3.
I usually don't. I'm usually the safe one. I just bet spread every time. But I've picked 3 or 4. I could be wrong on them all, but I'm being a little riskier tonight. Nothing too crazy. It's
hard when everyone's picking the upsets, but I'll say this. You know what? I like what Dennis Gates has got. Missouri's a team they run, and one of the
Tamar
biggest.
Bates is a former Indiana player too. Like he's played well
And here's
there.
the thing. Here's what I want to say. One of the biggest pickups in the transfer portal nobody is talking about. Caleb Grill from Iowa State to Missouri. One of the biggest pickups all year, and no one's talking about it. He's been very consistent in Missouri, and I think Caleb Grill, sneaky good player. You know what? Give me Missouri. I think, I talked myself into it. Caleb Grill, I like that they run in transition. Give me Missouri 71-68.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm going Missouri too. 74-65. Drake is a good team, but they don't play the proper tempo, in my opinion, to be able to really make a run here in the tournament. Plus, they don't really have the athletes for that either. Missouri's more talented. Grill's a great shooter. Bates has stepped up. I think Missouri wins. I don't think they're going to go far. It's not a spoiler, but I don't really think anybody's picking them to go far, but they're going to beat Drake, I think.
Mm-hmm. Now, this game here, Texas Tech versus UNC Wilmington in the 3 versus 4
Is this a trendy pick? Are people like picking upsets here? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, UNC Wilmington, I did watch them in their tournament. They're good. But Texas Tech's really good. Grant McCasland, you talk about underrated players. You've mentioned a ton tonight. Grant McCasland's an underrated coach. Like, have you seen that guy? He was kind of a guy I was like, maybe you should take a look. Like, he is fiery. That guy, he yells and screams. Like he's kind of like Dan Hurley, but like not in an annoying way yet because he hasn't won a title or anything. But you know what I'm saying? Like Grant McCasland, he's crazy
He's
on that time. So
here's the thing, and the thing is too, when they lost Pop Isaac, I remember me and you had a conversation over the phone about this. I thought Texas Tech was going to take a big step down, just as you did. As I remember you telling me, Pop Isaac, losing him, that was going to be one of them moves that not a lot of people looked at. But Texas Tech has played much better without him. And Pop Isaac he's an energy guy. He's a guy who's not going to score a lot, but he's kind of like Jose Alvarado. He's just pesky. He's there to tick you off, to get you in foul trouble, but he was a key vital in Texas Tech's defense. And I thought once they lost that, I'm like, they're going to take a step back on defense, and it may cost them in Big 12 play. And it seems like they've only gotten better. I mean, I don't think this is a trendy pick because obviously Tech is a 15.5-point favorite. I mean, unless you picking an upset, does Tech cover?
it's close. I'll go with Texas Tech to win 78-64. So they barely do not cover.
I'll go Texas Tech 80-70. I think they don't cover, but they get the W. All right, Jeffrey. Now
here's the game, man. Here is the game. Kansas and the other state that's got Kansas in the name. Arkansas. Arkansas. I always love that. It's like it's just literally Kansas, but with AR in front of it. It's like, okay. But you got Bill Self and John Calipari, two villains of college basketball. It's like, can you get any better than this? It's like they scripted this matchup. Like, come on. Like it's just too good, right?
You can't tell me that they weren't like, we got to find a way to make sure these two teams meet.
Yeah. So I mean, I am looking forward to this game. I mean, I don't know who I want. I mean, I don't pick based on who I want most of the time. I don't normally do that, but honestly, this is kind of a game where it's like, who do I want to lose more? Yeah, honestly, I mean, I don't dislike Kansas and Bill Self. Their fans have kind of frustrated me. I know Indiana's had some issues with the fans this year, and stop that. Don't do that. No death threats. That's wrong. But yes, I mean, IU fans, I mean, they're mad because the team sucks. It's like, all right, still don't do it. With Kansas, though, it's like you're a 7 seed and you're acting like you missed the tournament. Like, I don't get it. Kansas fans, you're still good. You're still a good team. You know, I
Calm
don't know.
down.
It's insane. But with Arkansas, though, it's like you talk about an inconsistent team. This is the definition of an inconsistent team. Arkansas, some weeks looks like they could beat anybody, and then other weeks they suck. I mean, they lost to South Carolina. I mean, they almost lost to South Carolina. Texas is the one that lost to South Carolina. Wait, did Arkansas did lose to South Carolina though in the regular season, right?
Yes,
they did. Both of them did. Yeah, I was tripping for a minute. Yeah, they did, and then they barely beat them in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Arkansas, like some weeks they're really good, some weeks they're really bad. Kansas clearly down, but still, it's not the end of the world. I mean, they are favored by 4.5. I want to hear your thoughts first. See if you can kind of convince me one way or the other.
So here's the thing. We always talk about them coaches that's good for one game, right? Tom Izzo, Randy Bennett. We talk about Mark Few, which we're going to get to him when we get to the last bracket over here. Bill Self is always good for at least one game. He's one of them guys, when it comes tournament time, he turns it on like a switch like that. Whereas Calipari in recent years has been known to blow it. Kentucky fans, if you're listening or you're watching, cover your ears for what I'm about ready to say. Do we not remember the Oakland debacle, the St. Peter's debacle? Calipari has been known in big games here recently since he's won the title back 10 plus years ago to blow it in big games. Whereas Bill Self, this is his moment. Bill Self is, when you think of March Madness, you think of Bill Self. You think of Tom Izzo. This is the time of year Bill Self turns it up. Yes, Kansas is down, but Kansas's worst years is a lot of people's great years. As crazy as that sounds, I'm going to say it, not even give any more thought. I'm picking Kansas, and I think they win. I think they win this game 77-71.
I'm going Kansas 75-70. I was gonna see if you had some Cal hype, but nah, I'm with you. Bill Self, he's all reliable. You know, I know they're not as good, but like in March Madness, Kansas like never loses in the first round. Never. You know, and Arkansas, I mean, too many years Calipari sucks fans in, sucks people in, and then just lets you down. So I agree. I think Kansas wins. I know a lot of Arkansas fans are confident, but I think Kansas has it.
Now, in our last game of this side of the bracket, number 2 St. John's versus number 15 Omaha. Omaha's first ever trip to the tournament. St. John's 30-4. Won the Big East outright. Rick Pitino has got this squad playing. St. John's is back on the map. They're playing some of their best basketball we've seen in recent memory. Does Omaha have a chance, Jeffrey? Or is St. John's just playing too well and too great right now under Rick Pitino?
It could be a complete oversight on my part, but I don't see this game being close. I think St. John's is on fire. I know some people have panned that their strength of schedule wasn't the strongest. That's why they racked up all the wins that they did. Every time I saw them play, though, they're like Houston. Like, even when they don't play that well, like I saw them play UConn in one of their Big East games, and they struggled on offense, but they just defended like crazy. And teams like that, even if maybe in this game their offense doesn't show up, they're going to grind it out on defense. They're going to shut Omaha down. They're not going to let them, score easy points. I think St. John's wins this game 69 to 55. I think it'll be a little bit lower scoring, but I think they're just going to grind it out and get it done.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking St. John's 84-63. I think they're playing some of the best basketball. I don't. Spoiler alert, I've got St. John's going the distance.
Ooh.
I won't tell you how far, though. But we're now on to the Midwest region and the final region of the night. And then me and Jeffrey will wrap up giving our final four, our title game pick, and who we think will win it all. And if we're wrong, you can give us crap. You can give us crap if you want. But I know I've had some people say, why don't you make a Final Four? and make a championship pick. And I'm like, that way people know instead of just predicting the first round. So I'm like, okay, we'll do that. And if we're wrong, we'll take it on the chin. But back to the Midwest, though. Houston versus SIUE.
I'm not picking any 16 seed upsets, man. It's not happening. Houston's winning this game.
Let me finish, Jeffrey. Let me finish. Let me finish, you ragged dog, before I kick you out of here. Gosh. You see what it's like to work with Jeffrey? First time in a long time, and he's Mr. Attitude. Gosh. See, this is why you're difficult. No, but in all seriousness, does Houston cover the spread? Let's just ask that.
And they might not, because it might be a low-scoring game. Like Houston, that's how they win. I mean, it could be like 69. I'll go like 69-47. I'll say Houston doesn't cover the spread, but they're gonna win.
It's like 28.5 points. I mean, that's a lot of ground. I mean, Houston's got a really good team. JoJo Watson, LJ Cryer. I mean, I won't say any more because I might spoil something, but Houston is a lot of people's pick to win the whole thing, and I don't blame them.
They're good. They're really good.
But not to spend too much time on this game because we got better games to talk about. I'll go Houston 75-43. This game right here, the 8-9, Gonzaga versus Georgia.
It's the same scenario. We're getting all these 8, 9, 7, 10 games where you got one coach who's reliable, over-reliable. In the case of Mark Few, 9 straight Sweet 16s. And then you got the new kids on the block, Georgia.
Here's the thing.
It hasn't even made the tournament in a while. It's been a hot minute.
Here's
I get an upset.
Here's the thing. I would say Georgia's played better basketball than Gonzaga. And I know that may be a hot take. But they have the best win, arguably. You want to talk about, Jeffrey, Indiana's win. What about Georgia beating Florida?
They won at home, whereas IU won at Michigan State. But I will say that one over Florida is probably more impressive because Florida, even though it's at home, because Florida's had a fantastic season.
Like, I'm not trying to get you fired up and get you off task. I'm just saying, like, we want to look at this realistically. Georgia has got some very marquee wins. I don't think people should overlook them at all, and just go with Gonzaga. I think people should really take a deep look at Georgia before making a pick.
Newell's a good player.
Yes. And here's the thing. Like you said, it's the new kid. It's old school versus new school. And Mark Few's been to 9 straight Sweet 16s.
The thing about Gonzaga, what's so weird about their team, and I think why a lot of people are so conflicted on them, is that when you look at a lot of these other teams that have kind of struggled, they have a lot of new faces. They got a lot of new players, right? So, these coaches like Bill Self, he's trying to work all these moving parts together.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Gonzaga,
and
their team is basically the same as last year's.
Yeah.
Practically the same. You've got Graham Ike back. You've got Ben Gregg back. You've got Ron Nembhard back. All these guys are back. I mean, you got Khalif Battle. I think they had add 1 or 2 pieces, but it's essentially the same team. And yet, now it's like they're worse. They're worse this year than last year. I don't know why. I watched them this year.
Mm-hmm.
It just looks like they kind of are just slower this year. I don't know why. Like Ron Nembhard, I remember when he was at Crate, he would make great decisions. He was fast. They just kind of they're moving in mud.
Mm-hmm.
They just play slower. They're more methodical. It's not Virginia, but it's speed it up a bit. You got Khalif Battle, who's an energy guy. He can light it up, and you just don't utilize that at all. So it's weird, but like I said, Gonzaga is one of those rare cases where they basically run it back and they're worse. You usually don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when a team runs it back, again, they get better. It's you got even another year of experience. And plus, in this transfer portal age, you're keeping all your players. All these other teams are getting new players. It's tough to kind of mesh all that together. But yeah, Georgia, Honestly, I agree. That's not a hot take. I think between these two teams, Georgia has played better than Gonzaga when they're at their best, especially when they're at their best. When they're at their worst, I mean, Georgia's had some bad moments, but nothing as bad as like Texas or Arkansas, where they've had some really bad performance, especially the South Carolina losses. Like Georgia hasn't done that bad, but they've had some moments. But when they're at their best, they're better than Gonzaga, but it's Mark Few. It is just so hard to imagine a guy that's made 9 straight Sweet 16s losing in the first round. Could it happen? Yeah, but it's hard.
Yeah. The thing is, like you said, I mean, since I've been putting you to picking first, I'll pick first this game. Give me Gonzaga. I don't like Bill Self. I don't think I could bet against Mark Few. Not against Georgia. Maybe against Houston. But give me to beat Georgia. I think the inexperience of Georgia will bite them in the butt. No pun intended. No pun intended with the bite. No pun intended. But I got Gonzaga. 60.
I mean, it literally is Bulldog versus Bulldog, so it could be dubbed the Bulldog game.
Oh, Lord. Don't give CBS anything, or TBS, excuse me. Don't give them a moniker. Then we'll have to hear it for the rest of the week. It's Bulldog on Bulldog action. What is this? Like, no one cares if it's Bulldog on Bulldog. Take that to the bedroom. For Christ's sake. But anywho, back to college basketball. We got off target. Give me Gonzaga 75-62.
In the battle of the Bulldogs, shouldn't the underdog win? That's a good one, Troy. That's a good one. I mean, I will say that Georgia, like I said, is the better team when they're playing at their best, more talented team at the top with Asa Newell, but Gonzaga's got the veterans. They got the experienced coach. I can't do it. I cannot pick against them until they backslide to the point where, they're losing games like this. It's Mark Few. Give me Gonzaga to beat Georgia 72-70. It's going to be close, but I think Gonzaga survives. And I do agree with you, Troy V, that yes, at one time it was John Stockton, and that was it. Now, I mean, they've been good for 20 years. I mean, they're absolutely a household name. I mean, younger people than us, Austin, like, all they know is Gonzaga being good. Just like younger people, all they know is Indiana being bad. It's like, you look at the grand scheme of things, it's like things have changed from 20, 30 years ago. You're not the same program.
And Jeffrey
Gonzaga is a household name. I think Austin froze. I thought it might have been on mine, but I think Austin might have froze a little bit there. But hopefully, we can get him back soon. So yeah, I mean, we're in the Midwest region, we're, as Jackson calls it, the choke region. Are you back, Austin?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry
you
about
froze
that.
for a minute. I thought it was me for a minute. I thought I was frozen, but it was.
Am I unfrozen now? Yoo! Can y'all see me?
Yes.
Jackson says
you're good to go. You're unfrozen now.
Sorry about that. It happens to all of us.
Oh yeah.
Anywho, we're in the Midwest region.
As Jackson is dubbed the choke region.
Oh gosh. But we got the 5 versus 12, Clemson versus McNeese. And this is a
trendy upset pick because of Will Wade.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look, like, it was like Elsa. For a minute, Austin was like Elsa Frozen. I've never watched Frozen, but I'll take that as a compliment, I guess.
You just had to let it go, man, for a minute. It's all good.
But anywho, back to college basketball before we get off the rails and are up till 6 a.m. But
can't do that. I gotta get some sleep sometime.
Yeah, me too. And Trey V says, I'll let it go. Oh, great. But anywho, will Clemson let it go? Let's find out. We've got Clemson, McNeese, another trendy upset. And it's because of Will Wade. And a lot of people think he's in talks to go to NC State. What do you think, Jeffrey?
I don't know how that impacts the game because, like, you don't know. Like, some teams, it makes them fold because, like, oh no, our coach is preoccupied with this job. He's not all in. So it's just, I don't know. Like, on the one hand, you could say maybe that will influence the game, make McNeese play worse. But on the other hand, it might not affect it all. Plus, Clemson has always been a team that people are like, yeah, they make the tournament and they're going to lose early because that's what Brad Brownell does. But we just had Clemson make an Elite Eight run. So, have they shaken that choke factor? Like, are they immune to the choke? Like, are they going to be able to, win a game or two again like they did last time out? I don't know. It's an interesting game. I think Clemson's a good team, but it's hard to say because the ACC wasn't strong. So Clemson and same in the case of Louisville, they both took care of business against all the inferior teams. So
and the thing too is, Jeffrey, with Clemson is they went heavy in the transfer portal too, with getting Jaden Zachary to pair with Chase Hunter and Ian Shefflin. I mean, Clemson's got a really good deep roster. They've got a 7-footer. He forget his name. He's got one of them weird names.
Yeah, he's from Cincinnati. I think it's Victor Lakin or something like that.
Clemson's got a deep team.
I think it might be Lakin, but yeah, he's a good player. He definitely helped Clemson beat Duke. He was good in that game.
Yeah, Clemson's a good deep team. But like you said, McNeese is a trendy one, and I've been pretty cautious all night. I haven't picked a single upset yet. Like, I'm literally playing your role, Jeffrey. Like, normally I'm the one over here trying to get you to buy it, and tonight it's been the opposite. I'm being safe over here. You're the one being Mr. Let's go with the upset today. Give me Clemson. Too many people are picking McNeese. I think Clemson's going to take them seriously. I'm going to go 70-60. Give me Clemson by 10.
I'll go with Clemson by 3. I'll go 70-67. I think it's going to be close. I almost picked it. But if he is preoccupied with the job, it might influence it a bit. And Clemson, I mean, they did show that they could win games, last time out in the tournament. So I think they could do it again. I will say, interrupt one more time on Frozen. Yeah, that twist reveal at the end with him, it was terrible, and I can't stand it. The old Disney villains are a lot better than that guy, but that's last thing. All right, back to basketball.
Yes,
Purdue.
Yes. Hold on, Jeffrey. We've got the 4 versus the 13. Purdue versus 13 seeded High Point, another trendy upset.
Yeah,
now, Jeffrey,
Purdue's lost early before. Like, we know the Fairleigh Dickinson, we know the North Texas, and all that sorts of stuff. So,
but Jeffrey, now listen. I'm gonna need you to do me a favor. I'm gonna need you to take your Purdue hater raid and throw it away for right now because you hate Purdue. Let's not forget that because Purdue fans think you hate them. Like you only see with Indiana colors. I mean, so Jeffrey, if you pick an upset, we all know it's because you hate Purdue. But go ahead. I had to throw that in there. Go ahead, Jeffrey. Take it away. I'm giving you the floor first.
I'm picking High Point, man. Let's go. Purdue, they lost to Indiana, a team that was not good enough to make the tournament, according to the committee.
Oh, boy.
So, they got some flaws. I think High Point wins this game, man. I mean, they're trending pick for a reason. Purdue, they don't have Zach Edey anymore. Fletcher Lawyer is cold right now. He's struggling. Braid Smith can be shut down if you play him hard on defense. And outside of Trey Kaufman-Renn, they don't have a lot in the front court. I'm going to go with High Point. I'm probably wrong, and it's not because I hate Purdue. I legitimately think they can get upset here. So I'm going High Point.
If High Point loses, Purdue fans are not going to let you live that
I,
down,
I
right?
might pick them in the next round then, maybe if I do picks again, or if, we'll see. But I'm going High Point for now. We'll see.
Oh Lord, God be with us for this one. Do I join you in picking High Point, or I've been safe all night? I have. I've been safe all night. You know what, Jeffrey? Give me High Point too. Give me another.
Yes, let's go.
Give me High Point. We'll be on the Purdue hater train together. Give me High Point 68-65. They win it at the
That's a
end.
good choice. As Lee Corso say, good pick. Good pick.
Give me High Point to get the W. Now this next game, the 6 versus 11. Illinois versus.
This is tough.
So we both picked Xavier, correct?
Yes.
Yes, we both did. Yeah, we both picked Xavier. So it's Illinois versus Xavier for us.
Illinois is the more talented team, but man, they were rough for a while. And I'm shocked they're a 6 seed. I thought they'd have been lower. That's another team I don't get the seeding. I mean, what don't make sense to me is how they overseeded a lot of the Big Ten teams like Oregon and Illinois, but then lower seeded Michigan and then left Indiana out of the field. It really doesn't make sense because to me, like Illinois, like they were on the bubble there for a minute, right? Like according to bracketologists, because they lost like 6 in a row or 5 in a row. Then they kind of stabilized at the end, but I thought they were going to be like an 8 or a 9 seed. I didn't think they were going to get a 6. I mean, I know that doesn't matter because they did what they did, but I just don't get it, honestly. I do not quite get it why they're a 6 seed, but being a 6 seed when you're a team that isn't playing great is not a good spot to be in. We know that. I don't know if we picked any 11 seeds to win. I think you might have. Did you maybe pick one? I can't remember, but I haven't really done a lot of upsets. So like this is a spot where it could happen.
No, I've picked High Point's been my only upset tonight. I've been real safe. You've picked 2 so far. You picked High Point just a minute ago, and I believe you picked who did you picked one more. You've been pretty cautious too. Like you've picked more than me for sure. Like but in this game
VCU. You did pick VCU over BYU in the 6th.
Yes.
You did pick that. We both picked Carolina. So we actually have both picked 2 of the 11s. And then the other one, we picked Missouri. So actually, we have picked 2 of the 6 seeds to lose because they're a common one. The 11 seeds win a lot. That's just the way it is. There's more upsets in the 6-11 than there are in like the 7-10s and the 5-12. It's crazy.
So
I don't know.
History would tell you right here. Since we've already picked a couple, would Illinois be the correct choice here?
See, that's the other thing. It's because you also look at the trend of one first 4 team usually makes a run at least to the Sweet 16. We already are picking Carolina to have that trajectory. So would Xavier do it too? Probably not. I'll go Illinois. I'll go Illinois to win 74-70. I'm not confident in that. I could see Xavier, but I'll go Illinois.
You know what, Jeffrey? Give me Illinois too, reluctantly, because of the trajectory. Give me Illinois 91-87. I think it'll be one of them games where it'll be raining buckets. And it'll be whoever has the ball last wins. Here we go. We've got 3 more games left, and then we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. The 3-14, Kentucky versus Troy. And here's what I want to know. Is Mark Pope going to follow Calipari's legacy? Does Troy have an upset in them, Jeffrey?
Do you feel Kentucky should have been a 3 seed, or should they have been lower? I feel they should have been a bit lower.
Absolutely not.
They had 11. They had 11 losses.
Yeah. I thought Kentucky would be a 5 seed.
Yeah.
And I thought that was being generous. You could have made an argument for them to be in the 8-9 bracket.
I would have put them at like a 5, low 4, high 5, just because of the SEC. But yeah, 3 was high, especially the injuries. Like they claim they punished West Virginia and that didn't put them in because of Tucker DeVries being hurt. But it's like Kentucky's has like 3 guys hurt and they're not coming back, and that has significantly impacted their team because they were playing better prior to those injuries. So it doesn't really quite make sense. But Mark Pope has done really well. Like, yeah, that one little when they were getting all those injuries, they lost like 3 in a row, and Kentucky fans like, oh no, we're losing, we're falling apart. Then they stabilize and they finish the season strong. So now Kentucky fans are like, oh, he's better than Cal. We're excited, even though Cal won in Kentucky, but Calipari was going to make sure he won that game. But the thing is like, is Troy good enough? I mean, like, are they like Oakland? Like, do they have a guy that can just go off like that? I don't know if they do.
I haven't watched much Troy, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing too. Like a lot of these teams have like I haven't watched much of Troy. I seen one game of theirs, and that was their championship game. That was it. That doesn't tell you much.
I'll go Kentucky. I kind of want to do upset, but I've picked a few of them, and I mean, Pope's done really well with all these injuries. That's very impressive. I think they are susceptible to get beat because they're not healthy, but I think they'll win. I think Kentucky's got enough there. Kobe Bray's a great shooter. Amari Williams, Brandon Garrison's tough in the front court. I mean, I think they're good enough. I think Kentucky will win 80-72.
Give me Kentucky too. I think they'll have just enough to at least get past round 1.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the Cats 85-79. All right. We've got 2 more games left. And this one right here, Jeffrey, the 7-10 UCLA takes on Utah State. Man, oh man, Jeffrey, if there was ever a time for me to think about an upset, I will kid you not, I have been thinking about this game almost all day long since I found out we were doing this tonight. Because this is one of them games where Utah State, I have a sneaking suspicion they might pull off an upset. But I'll let you convince me one way or another. Your turn to convince me, since I've done it a couple times for you.
This game's tough for me because the Mountain West, I've kind of talked down to the Mountain West tonight, saying that they have not impressed me. I know like they're strong for a mid-major, but when they get into tournament, they typically don't win. They lose early. And there was this weird phenomenon this year where Boise State and Colorado State for the most part of the season were pretty poor. And then they got on a big run at the end of the season. Both of them did. Colorado State ended up getting in, Boise didn't, but both played a lot better at the end. Whereas New Mexico, Utah State, San Diego State, the teams that were in the field, struggled down the stretch, which is weird. Like I saw Utah State earlier in the season, and they were great. And then like at the end of the year, they didn't look like the same team. And then you look at UCLA, first year in the Big Ten. I thought they navigated it pretty well. There was a time where they couldn't win a game outside of the West Coast. They finally won at Indiana in a game that
of course they did.
It is what it is. But UCLA, like they weren't impressive, and I feel like Mick Cronin, he's fine, but like UCLA fans, they want more. But like he's all right. But I mean, it was an okay season for them. It was okay. So with all that being said, I'm not really impressed with either team. Utah State's a really good team, but they struggled late in the season. So will they regain that early form, or are they going to continue to struggle? And UCLA, they just looked okay to me. They're a good team, but they're not great at all. And a good team is acceptable to losing to a team like this.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing I will say for UCLA is they did go on the transfer portal heavy. They were another one of the teams that made a haul. Sky Clark from Louisville, he was part of the Kenny Payne team. They've got a couple that teams, UCLA, if I could spit it out. UCLA made a big overhaul. So you pick first, Jeffrey. I'll let you go first.
Plus, UCLA plays grinded out games. Lower scoring, typically. I mean, they can score a lot in games, but not really this year's roster. A lot of their games are lower scoring. They kind of grind it out. I don't know if that plays into Utah State's favor or not. The Mountain West the Mountain West does not impress me. So I'm gonna go with UCLA over Utah State, 65-63.
You know what, Jeffrey? I'm finally going to pull the trigger. Give me the 10 seed, Utah State, to pull one out. I think UCLA got a bad draw for where they are in the region, had to play in Lexington. They got to travel across the way to Kentucky, California to Kentucky. I think that's going to affect them.
That's fair.
I think they're going to be sluggish. I think both teams are going to be sluggish, but I think Utah's going to be able to overcome it more. I got this being a 53-50 game, Utah State.
That's
an
ugly.
Upset.
That is ugly.
It's going you have to be prepared. Batten down the hatches. This is going to be an ugly game. I feel it. I have a good feeling. And then lastly, our final game is number 2 Tennessee versus number 15 Wofford. Now, Rick Barnes has been known to choke away some of these games.
And didn't Wofford win a game in the tournament a couple years ago, if I recall?
Yeah. They made an upset a couple years ago. Will history repeat? I mean, be honest with me. Is Tennessee really going to lose in the first round after making the SEC title game? What do you think, Jeffrey?
They had a great year. I mean, I've seen the Tennessee teams of the past that have choked, and they weren't as good as this year's team. This team might be too good. I mean, you got to realize that the SEC was stacked this year, and Tennessee still ended up almost getting a 1 seed. Like those other teams that Tennessee had that they lost, they were like a 4, or a 3 seed. Like they weren't as good.
And I want to give credit to Rick Barnes, too. I know Jackson, who, if he's in the chat, and I know you to a certain extent, Jeffrey, love to clown him. But I got to give him credit because he lost Dalton Connect, Mekhi Ziegler. He lost 2 key players from his Elite 8 team. And Dalton Connect, by all stretch and margins, is one of the best shooters in Tennessee history. And I even thought Tennessee was going to have a down year for their standards. I thought maybe 22 wins, sneak in the tournament. This is going to be one of them years where Rick Barnes kind of has to be grit and grimy. But here they are again. They're a 2 seed. Like, just when you think Rick Barnes is down and out, here he comes again. But did he put the doubters to bed? Because you remember, there's a stigma around him that he can't win in the tournament.
Yeah, I feel like it's the same with Brad Brownell, where he kind of has silenced that a bit with the Elite 8 run. And he can really silence it if he makes a run again this year. The same with Rick Barnes, because you remember, like I was very vocally against Rick Barnes. I'm like, yeah, he never wins.
You were not
he always loses it in the tournament. He did it at Texas. He's done it at Tennessee. He always loses early in the tournament, but he has done better recently. And I do think their team is better than those other teams that lost. I think Tennessee's going to win 78-67. I think they'll win.
I do too. Tennessee's good for one game at least. I got Tennessee 77-68. But that was our picks for the first round. I mean, we got some interesting games, but Jeffrey, what the people really want to know is now we're gonna put ourselves in the hot seat because I want to hear your picks, and I'm sure people want to hear mine. Even if we do second round predictions, we could still do this. They can hold us to it. That way, at least we said we got it. And
Yeah.
So let's start with the South region. Who's coming out of the South? Who's your pick to come out of the South, Jeffrey?
Man.
There's the South one more time.
Who's going to go all the way to the Final Four? Yeah. This is hard, man.
You're struggling. Are you going to pick North Carolina? Jeffrey?
I mean,
Jeffrey,
the thing is, I wish North Carolina fans on Twitter could hear me right now because, I mean, they've been hating on me.
Jeffrey, you take your blue shady glasses off. Try to be objective. Like I was objective with Louisville.
I could see him making a run now. I can envision in my mind. I mean, they made the Final Four a couple years ago when they barely got in the tournament, right? Like, that happened.
I'm not saying it can't happen, but come on, Jeffrey. You're the North Carolina man here. For you, it would just be a cop-out. Like
you know what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go with Izzo. I'm gonna do it.
Michigan State.
I'll do it. Carolina and Michigan State in the Elite Eight. Michigan State wins. There you go.
I got one that'll shock you. I've got Iowa State out of the South.
Okay, that's fair. No, but we're not picking Auburn. No, we didn't pick Auburn because they look shaky, aren't they? They look vulnerable. We didn't pick Auburn.
So keep this in mind for when you pick not Carolina. You picked Michigan State. I picked Iowa State.
Yeah.
So now to the West region. Who's coming out of the West to play the winner of the South in the Final Four?
Honestly, I'm not feeling as frisky on this one, man. I mean, like these teams, like I don't think I could be wrong. I'm not speaking for it, but I don't think like you're not picking like Maryland. I don't think you're picking Maryland. I don't even think Texas Tech. I think there's two teams legitimately. I think it's it's either Florida or it's St. John's. Who you got? I know it's
Jeffrey, we've known each other a very long time. You're way off on this one. I've got Texas Tech.
Okay. Fair. That's fair. I'm shocked. I didn't think he'd go that route, but hey, could happen.
I got Tech. I like what they do. Who do you got? Who's going to play Michigan State?
I'll do it again. Maybe I'm being dumb, and we'll go back on these picks if we're able to do the show. I don't know. Later in the week, round of 32 might be tough. Maybe we can do a Sweet 16. Maybe that can happen. We'll see. We'll try maybe put something in because I would like to revisit this, do another show. It'd be cool if we can. But I'm gonna go with the old coaches, man. Give me St. John's. Give me St. John's. I'm going old, man. Give me Izzo. Give me Pitino. Let's go.
And listen. You heard Jeffrey here first. If we're able to, we'll try to make one more show happen. We'll try to make one more, at least to revisit. We'll try to make it happen. No promises, but we'll try our darndest. That way, we won't run. Because I don't want people to think, oh, y'all made your pick and y'all ain't come. We might do one more. But, okay, so just remember your two teams. Now let's go out east. Who's representing the East?
Well, and for the love of God, I didn't do Carolina.
Hold on, Jeffrey. For the love of God, somebody other than Duke, please.
Bama.
I don't care who.
I'm going Alabama. I didn't pick Carolina, so I'm going Bama. We're going to the Final Four.
You know what, Jeffrey? Give me controversial. Give me, you know what?
No
Give
way
me
you're
Oregon.
picking Arizona. No way you're picking Arizona.
Give me Oregon. Give me the Ducks.
No! To the Final Four?
Yes, give me Oregon.
Okay, you said you didn't have any upset pick. That, my friend, is an upset pick. Oregon. I thought you were going
Jeffrey?
Arizona, and you went Oregon.
Give me Oregon. I feel like this is the year Dana Altman might surprise people. I like the team that they got. Give me Oregon.
All right, so I got 3 2 seeds. I got Michigan State, St. John's, and Bama. All right.
Gosh, the Midwest bracket. Oh gosh, this is a bad bracket.
I'm saying it. I'm going Houston.
Give me. You know what, Jeffrey? Call me nuts. Give me Tennessee.
Ooh, you going with Barnes? Unreal. Our picks are not going to age, man. There's no way. I know I just botched these hard. There's no way. I mean, there's no way. I don't even have a blue blood, man. Like, what am I doing? Like, I don't have Duke. Yeah, I'm nuts. I'm crazy. It's because it's 1 a.m.
So to recap, your Final Four is
Michigan State, St. John's, Alabama, and Houston.
My Final Four is let me make sure I say these right. My Final Four is Iowa State, Texas Tech, Oregon, Tennessee.
That's just bizarre. It's just bizarre. I hope it happens. That would be great.
Okay, Jeffrey. I'll let you go first. St. John's, Michigan State, who's going to play for the Natty? Who's going to get a chance to cut the net down?
I'm going Tom Izzo.
Okay. And I've got Tech and Iowa State. Give me Tech. I got Tech playing for the national title. I think they go on one of those runs. Since you went first I'll go first on this side. Oregon, Tennessee. You've got Houston. Who'd you pick for Houston, Alabama?
Yeah.
I'll pick first. Give me Tennessee. Texas Tech, Tennessee's my championship game. Who's yours?
Defense versus offense. I cannot pick Kelvin Sampson, who you got screwed by. I can't do it. So I'm going Alabama.
So you've got Michigan State, Bama.
Yes.
And I've got Tennessee versus Tech for the right to cut down the nets in San Antonio.
I'm going to let you pick first, man. I don't know what I should do. Izzo or Bama? I don't know.
Jeffrey, I hope and pray we somehow get to come back to this and do at least one show. Elite Eight, Final Four, something.
And we'll have to redo our picks. We have to redo our picks because I know we're going to be wrong.
Listen. I'm. Oh, Troy V's calling some favoritism. Oh,
the
boy.
guy with the Bama hat picked Bama. Yeah, I did.
Listen, I could have picked Creighton. I mean, not Creighton, Louisville, but then I'd be nuts. But give me Texas Tech to cut down the nets. Tech's my national champion.
Texas Tech is your national champion.
Patrick Mahomes is going to be happy with that one. I got Tech cutting down the nets in April.
again, this is gonna age like milk, and hopefully we can do another show so I can revisit. We can revisit both of us because I know, like, dude, if Tech loses in the first round, oh my lord, and then if my team loses in the first round, oh my lord. But for now, I'm gonna go with Alabama. I know it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen, but I'm gonna go with Alabama to win. I know the hat and the face. I get it, but
Listen,
Bama was close last year, and they got a darn good team. If they step up that defense like they did toward the end of the season, I know the Florida game, but I think they have a shot.
Listen, be honest with you, Jeffrey, to put our closing thoughts on this. Honestly, like, people may think Texas Tech winning it all is a crazy pick by me, but you remember 2019, they made a run once before. So it's not it's not completely out of the realm. Tech's got a good basketball team. Like, you picking Bama, like, people may think that is a quote-unquote homer pick, but Bama's got the team to do it.
They're really good. I mean, I legitimately think they could. I think it's a slim chance because, again, it's a loaded field. The top 3 or 4 seeds, they're good. This is a loaded field. But I like our picks. I almost went Izzo, but I don't know. I'm like, I got Bama all the way, man. Like, I just got to finish it. So, you know what?
Yeah.
All I'm going to say is like, if we're able to do it again and we can revisit our pick, at least we'll get another crack at it because I know we're going to be wrong.
So here's the thing. Last thing, and then we'll end it for the night. Jeffrey, I want to make sure, which Final Four team are you guaranteeing is a lock? I want you to put your lock on. That you're like, this is going to happen. I will guarantee it. I could give you my lock.
I want to hear yours.
Okay, so out of all mine, I say Texas Tech is my lock. I guarantee they'll be there. I would put my word on it. Who's your lock, Jeffrey? Who are you putting your word on?
I'll contrary because of who I picked to win it all, I'm going to say Houston.
That's fair. I
think they're in the easiest bracket. I think out of the my 4 Final Four picks, I think they're in the easiest bracket. So I think they have the best chance to get to the Final Four out of the 4 teams I picked. But that's my opinion. I could be wrong. I think I have Bama as my national champion right now, but I have Houston as a team I think is the most likely to get to the Final Four. It doesn't make sense, but that's my reasoning.
Yes. I mean, this is all very interesting. I mean, to say this as we put a bow on the night and go get us some sleep, because I think we're a little crazy, Jeffrey. Part of it might be because we should be asleep, but
yeah,
I'll say this realistically: there's 10 teams that can win the title this year. In all seriousness, I think you can make a case for Houston, Bama, Florida. I think you can make a case for Texas Tech, not just because I picked them. Yep, Duke. You can make a case for Tennessee. You can make a case for Louisville to win the whole thing. Like, you can make a case Carolina could go on a run. Like, you can make a case for a lot of different teams. But
absolutely.
And I'll say this too: it was fun talking March Madness with you.
100%.
I enjoyed it. Yes, and like you said, hopefully we can work something out, because I do want to revisit this one more time. Hopefully we can work it out around the Elite Eight or something, because I have a feeling mine's going to age worse than yours, because I picked Oregon to go to the Final Four.
If you're right, I'm gonna be like, wow, just like with the Florida going 9-4 thing. Like, I was like, Florida's not going 9-4, and you know what? They almost did. They were like right there. So, like, wow, incredible. It was crazy.
But that's why I said we'll put it out in the universe. Hopefully we'll be back to react to our takes, and hopefully we'll get a chance to revise them. But this was a fun show as always, Jeffrey. But before we go, what have you got going on this week, Jeffrey? What do you want to let the people in on? And what's cooking in your world?
I'm definitely going to be having more sports discussion on the tournament on my X account, Only Talk Sports. And also, maybe I might release some of these as shorts if I have the time, like some of our picks as shorts if I'm able to do that. And also Indiana's coaching news, I might release a video on that if I have the time, and some other coaching and transfer portal news for college basketball is coming up. So definitely, if you are interested in that, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Only Talk Sports, because you definitely don't want to miss none of that. That's going to be coming out soon. Definitely appreciate it.
And obviously, you can find me at Sports Talk Lost in 2002 if you're watching on Jeffrey's channel. I'll probably be doing shows myself, talking about the tournament. And obviously, like we said, last thing, we'll hammer it home. If me and Jeffrey are able to work it out again, we will be back. We don't know when, though. We will make it happen, hopefully, and we will react to our picks. And if we were right, if we were wrong, let us have it. If North Carolina loses in the first round, let Jeffrey have it. If Louisville loses in the first round, let me have it. We're here for it. Normally, we only do one of these, but since it's March, why not do another one? And obviously, you can follow me on Twitter too, or X, whatever you like to call it. I know they got a thing where they said if you get a perfect bracket, you get tickets to Mars, which no one ever gets a perfect bracket. So
yeah, we'll have to fill it out since we did our picks. I'll have to fill it out. That for sure.
I'll say this though it's going to be a fun time either way. Good luck to everybody's team. Good luck to you, Jeffrey.
Good luck.
Hopefully, Bama and Carolina. Hey, if things work out, I believe Louisville and Carolina could play in the Final Four if things work out.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be fantastic.
Could you imagine having Louisville, Carolina, Bama? Then we would definitely have to come back.
Yeah, if only Indiana was there. Oh
my gosh. Have Bama, Carolina, Indiana, and Louisville. That would be like the universe telling us you've got to do it again. But it was fun, Jeffrey. It's third year doing it, and it gets better each year. And hopefully we'll make it happen again soon. But it was fun. Thank you for having me on. Well, yeah, thank you for having me on. Troy says Purdue is in. No, not that, Indiana. You're just trying to get Jeffrey mad.
That's not what I meant.
I swear, if Purdue wins it all, I swear to gosh, I might have a meltdown. But fun as always. Jeffrey, any final thoughts?
I just can't wait for March Madness. I know it's already started with Carolina, with the controversy of them getting in and blowing out San Diego State. I mean, it's already started, but it's only going to get crazier from here. Tomorrow you got Texas Xavier, but the Thursday games, that's when it begins, and it's going to be madness. So I definitely can't wait. And like you said, good luck to all of our teams.
Yeah, and I'll say, and I forgot to bring this up, Boise State, they were another team that got left out. I forgot to mention it.
Indiana, and West Virginia were the top three that people were making cases for. But yeah, absolutely.
Ohio State, why in the heck were they thrown in there? Not to get too far off a tangent, but I just thought of that. Why was Ohio State in there?
And 15. I mean, they lost too many games, didn't win enough games. They lost to Northwestern by 21 at home. Come on, they're done.
That's why I was like, why is Ohio State even making? Anywho, that's another story for another time. But
Troy's probably mad
right now. Yeah, send the crowd home mad. He'll unsubscribe to both of us. But Jeffrey, it was fun. Look forward to doing it again. And to our fans and to our audience, enjoy March Madness. It's a special time of the year. I mean, I enjoy it more now since we lost it during COVID. I don't take it for granted. You used to take things for granted, but now I'm just like, even if Louisville never makes it again, I still enjoy it. But Jeffrey, if you got nothing else, let's send the people home happy.
Absolutely. It was a blast doing the show with you, man, and hopefully maybe we can do it again. This year was a lot of fun. I enjoy these shows every year. They're fun. Thanks, Troy. That's why we do it. We do it because we have fun, but also because we want you guys to have fun. So definitely appreciate
Yeah.
that, Troy. And also, Jackson, let's get Austin to 500 subs and me to 3,000 subs. I appreciate that, Jackson, a lot. Thank you.
Yes. We enjoy you all, and we appreciate you all. And for that, we bid you a farewell, a good night. Go Cards, go Hoosiers, go Tar Heels, and Jeffrey, hit your favorite. You didn't hit the Roll Tide. Go Cards.